All right, episode 46, I believe. So before we get into our actual podcast, it is that time. We're going to do a mac and cheese review brought to you by Mooney's Bar and Grill. If you have a Mooney's here in the upstate New York area, Southern Tier, there's one in Buffalo, right? 1, 2, Buffalo area.
4, I think.
Yeah. Drove by one the other night. Yeah, so this is the Mac of the month. I don't know if this is this transition to all the Moonies or just like if you own, I'd have to ask Brian this. Like if you just own those ones, is that the Mac of the month for your whatever?
That's a good question.
Right? Your franchise. All right. Mac of the month, January. We do need to change this up, Brian. We got to start reviewing it at the beginning of the month.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to make that change, but I think because of the timing of this starting and like we start doing like around Christmas time and shit. So
I like that because then we get mac and cheese back-to-back weeks.
All right. Here we go. This is honey barbecue chicken mac and cheese, correct?
Correct.
All right.
I have high hopes for this one. I'm not gonna lie.
I saw them post this on Facebook about 3-4 weeks ago, and I was like, I cannot wait.
All right, so scores. Eat up, boys. We need a score.
0 to 10. Same as the Barstool's pizza scale.
You can have decimals.
To how many places?
This fucking guy.
Slightly cold. That may be our fault.
It is to go.
And they probably had it ready at like 7 o'clock, so because we did wait last time.
I'm a fan because normally I feel like when you put any sort of like barbecue sauce on something, it just overwhelms the whole dish, but it's a nice balance here.
I may be... Oh, there's a chunk of chicken.
I'm going to Taylor on this. The barbecue sauce is not overwhelming. It just adds flavor. Good barbecue sauce, too. Mm-hmm. Doesn't taste like just like stock barbecue sauce you went and bought at Wegmans, right? It's got actual flavor. I'm curious to know if it is a homemade barbecue sauce if they whip something together. Because they have a golden barbecue sauce there.
Is that for the wings or something?
Wings, pulled pork, also phenomenal. I'm going 8-3 on this. This is really good. This is better than the one we did last month. I'm going 8-3. I think this is rock solid.
Yeah, last month was lasagna.
If you don't mind me interjecting, I was going to say right as soon as I put it in my mouth, I already knew it was going to be an 8. It's really good, but I'm just not big on barbecue stuff. So I'm really impressed with it, but it's just not up my alley. So I say flat 8 for me.
Was it one bite or one plate?
Isn't that the same thing for you?
Yeah, pretty close. I'm going 8-7.
That's huge.
Huge.
That's moving the bar up.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely near the top.
Okay.
I love barbecue, first of all, so. The barbecue sauce is very good. Mm-hmm. It's got a nice flavor.
The chicken itself is not as noticeable as I would have liked. I'm going...
Needs more chicken?
Yes. Yes.
I can see that.
I'm only putting this slightly ahead of last month, so I'm going 7.7. If I had to choose between the two, I would take this one. That's why it's above.
Last week you did 7.6?
7.5.
7.5, okay.
7.7 for me.
So you got 8-3. You got 8. You went 8-7?
Yeah.
Bold move.
That's a very bold move.
It'll be hard to beat for you.
Yeah.
I know.
It's 7-7.
7.7.
Okay.
I know it's a long way off, but I remember seeing when they had a Thanksgiving mac and cheese in like November time. I wish they'd bring that back as a seasonal thing.
So
like an early 6 months from Thanksgiving, because they've got the whole meal on top of it, and it looks wonderful.
I'll be honest with you. The best I've had for the Mac of the month, my favorite, I don't say the best, but my favorite is they did a breakfast mac one time.
Ooh.
I think it had like bacon and sausage and like syrup drizzled on it. They bring that back out. I might be over there once a week.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good mac. I like that one. That's totally worth. Go get it. Go get it. Tell them the boys at 3-Star Recruits sent you. Get the mac of the month. I know it's the end of the month. We got to change that up, but
Tell them we sent you. You'll probably get no discount, but we appreciate it.
you know what? I bet you they could make that for you if you just walked in and said, "Hey, can you do a?" I don't think it's probably not that hard for them to mix that up.
No, I would think they could.
You think they'll make a whole Thanksgiving dinner for me?
No,
No.
that's a big no. No. But we can-
Nobody carries cranberry all year long.
Oh, I'd pass on that anyway.
The Thanksgiving one doesn't sound good to me.
Well, you just said you wanted it, and it's got cranberry on it.
That's the only part I didn't want.
You can just probably ask to not have that.
That's not part of it. Yeah, go all in or don't go.
The way it comes out of the can looking like the can is just disturbing to me for some reason.
But very good, Mac. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Moonies. We appreciate it. Look forward to another one. But yeah, go check them out. They got good sandwiches there too. They got good wings, I believe. I usually don't get it. Usually when I go to Moonies, I'm like, I need some mac and cheese.
It's hard not to.
Yeah, that's what they're known for.
Mac and cheese and burgers. That's all I've ever had.
Yep.
It's like going to Red Lobster and ordering a cheeseburger. You don't do it. You know?
Do they have cheeseburgers at Red Lobster?
I don't know.
Maybe the kids menu.
Yeah. No one said what menu he's ordering off of.
We should come up with our own special of the month. Some month where it doesn't have anything crazy going on. Have like the
The
3-star recruit meal of the month or something.
I like this.
Me too.
Maybe come up with a concoction that they put together.
Are you listening close, Brian?
He probably is. I'm going to send him this.
There we go.
I like that.
Yeah,
We could probably, yeah.
it could be a meal. The meal of the month. Have
Hold
like
on, emphysema kid over there.
Yeah, I know. Did you start smoking this week or something,
Jesus
dude?
Christ.
This morning.
Jeez. All right.
All right, let's get into the topics then while everyone stares at the mac and cheese. Our friends at Mooney's over here. You guys want to start football or UFC?
Let's get football out of the way because I feel like we've been so football focused the last couple months.
Okay.
Let's
agree.
just get it out of the way.
So we'll start with Green Bay in Tampa. You guys' thoughts? Did the game go how you thought it was going to?
No.
Meaning you thought Green Bay would win.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised Tampa won.
I'm not surprised, but I thought Green Bay would handle it offensively. But Tampa's defense, I
Tampa
think
has a stout defense.
their defense has definitely come along. Definitely playing better.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily leaning one way or the other, assumption wise, but I'm not at all surprised by the outcome, I guess. Tom Brady is some of the stats. Now that he's in the Super Bowl, you see all these weird stats floating around social media about the number of Super Bowls he's been in. It really is crazy when you think about those stats.
Yep.
Yeah.
10 of 21.
I think the craziest one I saw for his career, I don't remember the exact percentage. It's like 46% of the years he's been in the Super Bowl. So he's more likely to be in a Super Bowl in any given season than Steph Curry is to make a three-point shot. Because Steph Curry's career three-point percentage is like 43%.
43%, yeah.
Which is damn good.
Mm-hmm. Sure is.
So,
that is crazy. That's a good stat.
yeah, I don't know. I think you said last week how you thought, at least the top four best teams were in the conference finals. Maybe five, whatever you want to say. But so it's not too surprising, the outcome. I don't know.
So I think that, and I'm not going to try this. I want to sound like I'm taking anything away from Brady. He's been Brady. It's hard to ignore that fact.
Mm-hmm.
I do think there is a part of this game though that was handed to them by Green Bay. I felt like one of the touchdowns, they fumbled the ball inside the 10, was it, or something like that, or inside the 20.
Both the turnover at the end of the half, and then they threw that touchdown.
That was a stupid
big.
play on Tampa's part.
On Tampa's part or Green Bay's
Or Green Bay's part, yeah.
Yeah, and then Aaron Jones fumbled at the beginning of half.
Right inside on the 20.
Well, he fumbled at the 30 or whatever, but yeah, they returned it to
inside the 10 or
yeah,
something.
right around the 10 somewhere. So that was big. Turnovers were big, even though Brady threw 3 interceptions
In the one half.
right
In one half. And even I felt the difference in that game was not just the turnovers. If it was the difference in the game was the turnovers, then Green Bay, they potentially could have, you're right, points off turnovers. Green Bay got 3 interceptions in the second half and got 6 points off him, and that's it. Like, I feel like you got Aaron Rodgers out there, and credit to Tampa Bay's defense, but that was a big difference in the game. But that turnover, I felt like they even recovered well from that first turnover in the second half. The big thing was that touchdown at the end of the first. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't give that up.
Right. The one was it Scotty Miller?
Yeah.
Yeah. 4th down, 8 seconds left. I'm just going to throw it to the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, what else was he going to do?
Right.
It was very clear. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
And I texted you guys. I thought Rodgers' decision making was off. Couple passes. I think there was one on 3rd and 5. Kyle and I talked about yesterday on the DFS Units podcast. It was like 3rd and 5, and Aaron Jones ran a drag route across the middle. Instead of hitting him in the middle of the field, he waited till he got all the way across the hashes, and as soon as he caught it, he got hit. If he throws it to him, in the middle of the field, which was open at the time when they showed the replay, he has time to make a move because it was like 3rd and 5.
Right.
The only thing I can think of is, was it a check down?
Right. That's what we don't know. I don't know what his progressions were.
Yeah. I know the one pass he missed to Adams in the end zone.
Yep.
Lazard, I believe, was coming across the middle. Nobody on him.
Yep.
Underneath the route, and he was wide open on the goal line. I think the big thing for me was at the end of that game, a couple things happened. The talk Monday was, did LaFleur make the right decision to kick the field goal? I would say no. I'd say they'll talk about that for a long time.
Yeah. I saw the 4th quarter. I was watching with my dad. So I was over there to watch the Bills game, and we both immediately looked at each other. Why are they not going for it here? You literally have. I don't know.
Give me the MVP, right?
Yeah, you got Aaron Rodgers down on. They're inside the 5, right?
8-yard line.
8.
Okay, 8, and yeah. To me, you take the chance on the touchdown there because they needed another score, but. Let's say you couldn't march down the field, you could still attempt a 45-yard field goal, whereas you're more likely to hit that than a 45-yard Hail Mary. Right. So, yeah, I was shocked at the time that they didn't go for it.
And obviously, you got Brady on the other side. Hard to stop him.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you got to look. If you have someone else on the other side, then maybe that's the right decision because your defense can stop him. But you got Brady on the other side.
Yep.
Much harder. And even the play before that.
That's what sticks out to me.
Rodgers
on the 3rd down play,
Rodgers
run
had,
it in. Yeah.
He had even if he couldn't get in, he runs that to the 2 or the 3.
Yes.
Instead of trying to force that one into a double team.
And you definitely go for it.
Right, yeah. If you're down inside the 5, you're definitely going for that.
Yep. Yeah.
But I don't know what he was because it's not like he doesn't run ever. He definitely runs. So,
obviously there were questions about that after the game, kind of like you mentioned, and he didn't sound too happy about Aaron Rodgers. I know they just lost, so of course he's not happy, but he clearly had some thoughts in his head and didn't want to throw anyone under the bus, but he was not a happy man.
He was on McAfee today.
He did come on the
He showed
show.
up to McAfee today.
They didn't know if he was coming, and he texted McAfee like 3 minutes before he usually comes on. He says, I'm in. And he came on the show, and
he's like, I was never not in. I planned on coming today. He made some really valid points today, too. I mean, we've talked about this before, like Rodgers doesn't like the media. He hates most of the media because he asks stupid questions. He's got to rehash shit, and he just, he kind of hinted at today, like, I'm coming to media 15 minutes after I just lost. I got half of my team, we're crying in the locker room, we're upset, our season's over.
Yeah, and
you're asking me questions like this. So one of the questions was about his future, and he said, I didn't say anything that I haven't said in the past because I stated a fact for anybody that's ever played in the league and knows this. This is a business where there is no certainties. There is no guarantees.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the future holds for me. He goes, how do I know they're not going to come to me and basically say, we're going to move on from you? He doesn't know. He's like, I don't know that. He goes, am I coming back? Yeah, I'm coming back. I don't plan on leaving unless something crazy happens. And Green Bay would look absolutely stupid if they traded or got rid of Aaron Rodgers after he wins an MVP and you go to 2 straight NFC championship games. So he kind of cleared the air on that because ESPN was eating that shit up Monday and Tuesday about him leaving. He's going to go someplace else. He's like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, you still got 3 years left on your contract. You're probably going to win the MVP. They're not getting rid of you. Mm-hmm. I would, for Green Bay's sake, I think they need to, and it's going to get talked about because when it gets close to the draft after what they did last year. I want to ask you guys, where do you think Green Bay needs to make improvements? Because the experts on ESPN this morning, I won't name names, claim that Green Bay needs a wide receiver. And I'm like, we just had Devontae Adams on TV last week before the game, Adams is probably if not the best. So you can make an argument for either him or Diggs, right? Being the best wide receiver in the league. He was on TV saying that they felt disrespected that was a conversation. Like, oh, why didn't they draft a wide receiver? And he's like, we got MVS, we got, Lazard. He goes, I thought our guy stepped up this year. And I did too. I mean, I felt like, and then you got Rodgers throwing you the ball.
Right.
Right. You have three very good receivers there. I do believe they have at least one good tight end.
Yeah. Yeah. Tunyon's there.
Tunyon, yeah. So I don't think they don't need to give Rodgers another weapon, right? I think the problem there is you have to go back and look at the numbers, look at the stats. Green Bay really didn't have an issue putting up points this year. What they had a problem with was their defense and special teams was terrible at times.
Yeah. And going back to your question about the draft, I would go defensive line or linebacker. I forget which guys stand up and go down for them with Williams and Preston Smith and those guys. But I would definitely go front seven for them.
Defensive side of the ball at least,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think you go defensive side. They definitely struggled this year on that side.
Yeah.
And you can get, if you want a receiver, you can go second or third round, fourth round and get at least a guy that can step in and be your third or fourth receiver.
Right.
And maybe they go running back. I think Aaron Jones is a free agent, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
someone's a free agent in the backfield. So potentially go running back. I don't know.
Or do they pay Aaron Jones and keep him?
Right. But another point that Rogers brought up is teams are going to make a lot of tough decisions this year because the salary cap's expected to drop to $175 million, go down $25 million. So there's some guys that are getting paid that might not be on teams next year.
Yep. Yeah, I thought his interview today was good. Like on McAfee, he was just very like
he looked like himself. He
just like he always
around
does. He basically said like I enjoyed coming on the show, and he made a reference to I don't need to hash it out on Wednesday again with the douchebags.
Yeah,
is what he said. Like I just think you can just tell it's annoying probably for some of those guys, some of the questions they get, and he's like I can come on here and be myself.
And that's traditional sports media in general. That's nothing really unique to him. You listen to any post game, especially in the playoffs, local newspapers, things of that nature. They all ask dumb, repetitive questions.
All right, let's move on to our Bills. A very somber Monday morning. It's tough.
Yep.
But the more I thought about it, I wrote like a little blog, kind of wrote down my thoughts and feelings like I was trying to get back an ex-girlfriend out on the website about the Bills this season. I don't know. Did you get a chance to read it yet?
No, I still didn't.
Just kind of didn't, something I thought of. I thought I'd throw it out there, so that's out there. But I think Rodgers said it best today. He said, it's so raw right now, right? You just lost. That's not your end. Your end goal is clearly to win, and you get that close. He said, it's so raw right now. He goes, and that sadness and rawness is going to wear off into appreciation and pride. You look back and say, that was really good what we accomplished today. You're going to look back on the good things. He's like, that eventually gets there. Then you get into, you get motivated again. But he's like, it's going to take a few days for this one to wear off. And I think we saw that yesterday in press conferences with some of the Bills players I watched that it probably sucked. And it's got to suck. I mean, you did a lot of things this year that organization hasn't done in years or at all.
Right.
And you got an unbelievably fan base behind you. I mean, you still had fans showing up to the airport at 3:00 in the morning, waiting for you to come back after you just lost. I mean, it's incredible, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you figure with playoffs, they went, 15-4.
Yeah.
15 games this year, yeah.
I mean,
They're going to win the second most games in the league.
it's hard to be upset with that.
Yeah.
So you just, as a fan, you hope it's not a 1-year thing. You hope they're back next year and in contention. And
It feels that way. It just feels like steady growth. It doesn't feel like it was a flash in the pan to me.
I mean, I can't, sitting here, I can't come up with any reason why they won't be back. So, and quite frankly, we might see this Buffalo, Kansas City, rivalry, I guess I'll say, in the playoffs for quite a few years to
I was
come.
gonna say this could be a 5 to 10 year thing, and Buffalo's got to go to KC again next year.
Yes, they did mention that.
Because they both finished first in their division, so they will play again next year. So we're gonna see it for years to come. It's gonna be similar to that Colts Patriots we saw every year with Manning and Brady.
Yep.
I think that's what it's gonna become.
Yep.
We're gonna see it a lot in the playoffs. So
Yep. I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun.
yeah,
Fun to be a part of that. Kansas City is. They're one of those teams I don't really, hate any of their players for any reason. In fact, like Mahomes, I'm a fan of his, the way he plays, and I don't know. It'll be interesting.
just one guy on that team I don't like.
Care to elaborate?
Yeah, Tyreek Hill.
Oh, yeah, me too. After that performance,
off field and on field, both.
Adam and I talked about it a little bit Monday. Mahomes is a good player, yeah. His fucking fiance annoys me more than anything. Makes me dislike him a little bit.
Maybe the brother a little more.
That too, like just the shit they post on social media, and like even when I don't follow him, it just pops up. And I'm like,
I pay no attention. To
it
that
still
shit.
like comes up, and I'm like, why is this in my feed? I think the thing the other day was, and I hate to give the guy credit, but Stephen A was right. Yeah, Mahomes is a good player, right? He's a very good quarterback. But the thing that got overlooked and Stephen A brought up is, yes, Mahomes is very good, but nobody's giving credit to the guys out there, Sunday night that were literally his weapons. I mean, the Kelsey thing, that was Bill's defense, partially their fault. Kelsey's a great tight end, but he's also even better when no one guards him.
Right.
Like, you let him run wild into the middle and just stand there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's hard to.
Yeah. I disagree that nobody's given those weapons credit. I think we've heard about that for the last 10 weeks about Kelsey was on a run for maybe being the first tight end ever lead.
He was giving people on set a hard time. Stephen A was giving those because they're knowing everyone that was talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. I left that out, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the people who were there and talking about it, it was like Mahomes,
Okay.
Mahomes,
All right.
and he was like, timeout. Like,
Okay.
Mahomes didn't throw any bombs last night. He threw 8 to 10 yard passes that turned into 60 yards because you're throwing 2 yard slants to Tyreek Hill, who is unbelievably fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, you guys, we got to remember that. Like, as much credit you're giving to Mahomes, like, he has some weapons around him that make him even better.
And we know Beasley was hurt, but as far as we know Josh Allen's arm strength, there's times I wish the Bills would play that game. Throw the little 10-yard slants to Beasley and Knox and let them pick up, 15 to 20.
Did you know saw Beasley yet?
Hurt is an understatement.
Yeah, his leg
Broken.
was it his fibia or something?
Fibula.
Like that?
Yeah.
So he broke it week 16.
Yeah.
He'll probably put some good music out while he's on his downtime, though, so that's all right by me.
Yeah. So as far as in that game, as far as the Bills go, you've got to you can't leave Kelsey uncovered. And if he's going to make catches, he's a hell of an athlete, but you've got to be there to tackle him right away. But I do kind of wish the Bills sometimes would mimic that a little bit. And
I do too.
Let's hit Beasley a little more in the slot. And
So they said that this year the Bills were the worst defense against tight ends. It's because their defense is built around not giving up the big play.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which they did. I mean, that's what they did. But
I also think the Bills struggled for whatever reason, whether it was the Bill play calling or Kansas City's defense. The wide receivers could not get open. It felt like Josh, he was scrambling and he had nowhere to throw the ball in most of that game. Guys just weren't open.
Yeah. It's going to sound like an excuse, but I don't want it to be. If you watch Kansas City's defensive backs all year, they grab all the time, which I don't know if we were texting or my buddies, we were in my other group. When Trey White got called for the penalty in the end zone, I mean, what are you supposed to do to Kelsey? They were both, pushing each other and stuff, but they weren't calling that all game. And then you do call it. So there is, and people have mentioned it before, but KC's defensive backs are kind of known for kind of grabbing more.
they were talked to during the game.
Yeah.
They said a referee took
Matthew
over to the defensive coordinator and they talked to him about it. But it didn't make a difference.
No. They're definitely known for grabbing because there's no way you can have 4 defensive backs that tight on everyone the entire game.
The difference,
I just find it hard to believe with how good the Bills receivers have been all year.
The problem with Trey White was he's not knocking. What I was texting you guys, someone needs to knock him at the line, not give him that free up, just just ignore the fact he's on the line. Trey White was like in the end zone, like hugging him.
Yeah. You did text us and said something like that. Like, yeah, of course they called on Trey there, which maybe I hadn't paid close enough attention to Kansas City's defensive backs specifically for that reason. But when they showed the Trey White replay of that penalty, when I see that, I'm like, man, that's clearly a penalty.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes I don't get that because they always said, like, the defense player has their position too. And Kelsey obviously ran directly at him. So it's hard to say, like, I mean, what's Trey White supposed to do too, right? Mm-hmm. Just fall over. You know what I mean? Like,
well, in my opinion, yeah, you kind of like setting a screen of basketball, whereas Trey wrapped his arms around him and hugged him instead.
Yeah.
So
try to do the other thing, sell it like you pushed off.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta.
If you keep your arms down and he runs over you, then maybe you get the call. But as soon as you wrap your arms around him, it's
my thing is like I wish guys. That's what made Deion so good, right? Deion got in your face at the line, and as soon as the ball got snapped, he probably either hit you in the chest or hit you in the shoulder to get your timing off.
Yeah.
And I watched Tre'Davious the other night. It was like a third down play, and he was within like 4 or 5 yards. It might have been Hill, and then right before the ball snaps, he dropped straight back. He was behind the first down, and Mahomes just turned around and like threw it to Tyreek at the first down marker. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like,
I don't think that's Trey though. I think that's the defensive scheme.
It could be, but at the same time, like, I understand you're protecting the big play, and it probably is part of that.
Yeah, because Trey's not right. Trey's not going to keep up with Tyreek.
Nobody is.
Right. So,
but the best thing to do to Tyreek is to bust him in the mouth of the line.
Right.
Where you're allowed to do that.
And so I agree and disagree because the defense, and this goes back to defensive line, even though you knocked them off their route, nobody was even coming close to Mahomes. So, you could throw off the timing a little bit, but guys are still going to get open because no one's getting to him, rushing him. So, which I think leads to potentially the draft, or someone made a comment, do you try to make a big splash like you did Diggs last offseason and bring in
a big guy,
a defensive lineman, or an edge rusher?
Yeah, so I'm going to be sounding really biased here because you guys know why, but I read this. I was watching Dan's live stream before this, and everyone's like, well, why don't they cut Mario? Mario led the team in sacks. He's tied for first in sacks on the team. And outside of anybody in the secondary, also for any like lineman, he led the team in passes deflected at the line. Mm-hmm. So that's not, to me, that's not the guy you get. That's not the guy.
No, I would look at Jefferson maybe. Quentin Jefferson. I mean, they're paying him 9 or 10.
Are they?
Yeah, and I think Vernon Butler's getting roughly around there too.
I've mentioned it last year. What about like, do you move on from Jerry Hughes? I mean, Jerry Hughes, like when his move works, he's got one move, right? He's like the guy on the dance floor does the dice thing too much. Okay. he hits the corner, he lowers his shoulder and tries to get under the defender. And 9 times out of 10, when Jerry Hughes rushes, he's on the ground trying to get a sack. He's literally on the ground when the play's over because he's diving for the legs. And I think they maybe got him to stop doing that when they played Baltimore because the edge guys did their job. Like they made sure, like when they got so far into the pocket, don't get too far because then, you know what I mean? You got to help if Lamar tries to bust it up the middle. So, yeah, I think that was my next question, you guys. Where do they go in the draft? Where do you think the Bills go in the draft? Because we were texting the other night, and I really think their priority should be a running back.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at 30, because they are picking 30th, you take best available.
Yeah,
at 30, you have
it's such a crapshoot at that point.
That late, you got to take. If there's, I'm gonna throw a name, Travis Etienne there from Clemson. If he's there at 30, do you take him? Is Najee Harris there? I don't know if he lasts that long.
Right.
Or do you just go pass rusher? Edge rusher. Do you try to get someone off season? I don't think Milano's going to be back. And if you have to choose, I'm probably not signing Milano. Long term, I would rather have Edmonds over Milano, I think. But
I think Milano's going to ask for more money than he's probably worth. He's a good linebacker. He also comes with health issues, right?
Right.
I feel like every year he somehow gets hurt.
You got to think Edmonds is what, 22?
He's very young.
21.
It just seems like the opposite of what you would have said.
Yeah, you normally don't like Edmonds.
You hated Edmonds.
Yeah, I did.
Edmonds pissed me off the other night.
But I don't know if it was because he was hurt. He definitely played better the last 6 weeks of the season. He's fast.
Yeah, he was frustrating me the other night because I'm like, he was the one guy that wasn't making reads of like guys going across the middle, and there's Kelsey wide open.
It's part of that too because he's not a true middle linebacker. He's an outside linebacker. So I think they need to bring a true middle linebacker.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is Buffalo only usually runs 2 linebackers.
Right.
And I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, but I'm not putting A.J. Klein in the middle.
No, I mean, I was saying it for a long time. I think I said at the draft last year, Buffalo needs a linebacker.
Well, right. And a lot of it could depend, is Leslie Frazier there next year? Is he done?
I hope he's gone.
I do too. But if Houston watches that videotape, he's not going to Houston.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna. I think he's gone. I really do, and I think that could be a good thing. I've never been a huge fan of Dabble. I mean, I dogged the guy a lot last year. I thought the play calling improved this year. I still felt like at times inside the 20, even though the Bills had good production in the red zone. I think some of that too was Josh's feet, but I think at times like his play calling, like they get to that point and it just stalls out.
Yeah, there's times he's very aggressive, and then there's times it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
There was times Sunday night when they would show the replay and they'd go back and it'd pan out, show the play. We got 3 wide receivers running streak routes. I'm like, this looks like last year. Right? I mean, you got 3 guys. I mean, that's not hard to guard.
And I don't know if Dable was part of the reason. Obviously, we saw at the beginning of the year, the Bills struggled in the third quarter of games.
Yeah.
They were hot in the first half and then just went real conservative. And then that changed, I don't know what, maybe like the Chargers game, somewhere in there, when the win streak started. But I don't know if that is it Dab? I don't know is it Josh Allen checking out of plays? Who knows? But I would say it's got to be Dabble with play calling. But I thought he was much better this year, so
It's better this year than last year.
I'm glad he's going to be back.
If they make another growth like they did this year, I agree. I think it also is better that he's in the booth calling plays where he can see the field.
Yeah. Oh, that helps tremendously.
He's not on the sidelines, so I don't know. I had mixed emotions about Dabble. I mean, yeah, they got this far this year, and I hope they can grow on that. Players love him, right? So that's a good start.
Yep.
To growing is that they have confidence in him and he has confidence in them. I guess that's a good start. You don't have to rebuild a relationship.
Right.
Defensively, I think they need some help with the linebacker for sure. I know they say Starr's coming back next year.
Yep.
Is he getting paid a lot of money?
Like 12, 13.
Okay. I mean,
they truly need someone in the middle. Oliver's not big enough in the NFL. College, he was very good inside, but I don't think he's truly big enough.
Someone brought that up today too. Like, do you move Ed opposite of Mario? But it's like, is he going to be out of his comfort zone on the edge? I don't know.
Yeah. Epineza, I don't know. He was hit and miss this year.
It's more of a linebacker, isn't he?
Yeah. He's not big.
Yeah, he's not.
He's very thin and, I don't know, just looks like a lanky guy.
Yeah.
Playing defensive end because he's quick, which in college works, right? It doesn't work. It doesn't work in the NFL.
Yeah, because everybody's as big as you in the NFL. So yeah, I think their priority needs to be running back, or like you guys said, whatever you got out there at 30, do that. But nothing against Singletary. I think he's at times flashes of brilliance, but consistently, like,
my frustration with Singletary is Josh will look to throw to him when there's nothing else out on the field, and Singletary drops the ball
all the time,
like half the time.
That play on Sunday changed that entire game, I think.
Yeah.
I felt the momentum swing there.
I mean, nowadays in the NFL, especially with a quarterback who likes to throw, I mean, you have to have a receiver who can catch the ball. So that's half the reason, like, Alvin Kamara in New Orleans has been so successful the last few years. He probably gets more catches than rush attempts sometimes, some games.
Absolutely.
And Singletary's inability to catch a ball is not good.
And the Bills, I think, as good as Josh is, he could be a whole lot better if they had a running attack.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if they can work in some more play action.
Yeah, Kansas City went in that game and it was like, well, they ran their first 20 plays last week and ran 4 rush or didn't run a rushing play, right?
Yeah.
First 19, 20 plays.
Yeah.
So what do you go in and guard against? They clearly don't have confidence in a running game either.
Yeah, my buddy put a bet on Singletary under 9.5 carries. I was like, oh, that's a good bet. And then they gave him the ball like 6 times in the first quarter, and I was like, uh-oh, bud. And then they didn't give it to him again because they were down. But
I want to know why they didn't use Freeman. They signed Devontae Freeman on the practice squad.
Yeah, I don't know.
Kenny Stills didn't play the other night.
I was surprised they for putting. I don't know if was he active for the game.
Yeah.
So I was surprised that they made him active, and then Gabe didn't even. I think he was out there. I kept like looking to see because I knew he was active, but he didn't play much until the fourth quarter.
But I heard he was out, and that's why they activated Kenny Stills.
Yeah, so somebody put a stat out. Davis was on the field for one play through 3 quarters.
Yeah, I don't know why he just didn't play. I mean, that's probably makes it easier to guard the pass too.
And just another quick note on the Bills, I would get rid of John Brown
I said that a few weeks ago.
for $9-10 million.
Mm-hmm.
I think
When you have-
Diggs, Beasley, Davis, and you can bring someone else in.
McKenzie's growing.
Yeah, he's definitely a weapon out there.
No, I said that a few weeks ago. I think we talked about, what do you do when he was hurt? I'm like, I just feel like they're going to get rid of him because they have Beasley now. They have Diggs that does the deep routes, and
Were you a fan of Brown in the first half of the season, though?
I have nothing against Brown. I felt like once they started having success. I mean, he was the one receiver last year, right, for the Bills. It was like him and Beasley was really anybody yet. They didn't have weapons. And then once we started seeing what was going on between Josh and Diggs,
Just overshadowed it, right?
kind of, but then he gets hurt. I feel like he gets hurt a lot. I mean, it's not really necessarily his fault, I guess, but at the same time, like he seems to have he's injury prone. But then what you had, I felt like, and guys jump in on this, Diggs doing what he should have been doing, right? And then once he's doing that, now you got Beasley doing the things he should have been doing that made him good, and that's running, like Russ said, short slant routes over the middles because he catches almost everything you throw at him. So he started playing the role that he's used to playing. And then they brought in Gabriel Davis, who showed signs of like this kid's kind of a mid receiver. He can run the deep route, he can run the shallow route. He can kind of like a hybrid. And like Adam said, for the money, do you keep John Brown or do you get rid of him and get something back for him?
Sort of made him obsolete.
Especially with salary cap dropping, I think he'll be one that's probably on. And he's been in the league. I'm going to make this up probably, but I'm going to guess almost 10 years now. He was in Arizona probably for 4 or 5, Baltimore for 1 or 2, and then now he's been in Buffalo for 2 years. So he's
Close.
pushing almost 10 years in the league probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's. I mean, that was one of my things. I told Allie one day, I'm like, I think John Brown's done. For the money and the things he can do.
He played 4 years for Arizona, 2 for Buffalo, and 1 for Baltimore.
Okay, so he's going on his 8th year.
Yeah.
Which isn't.
It's not a ton.
It's not a ton, but at the same time, it's not. I don't know. Average receiver is probably in the league like 7 years.
You got to definitely evaluate like for the money.
Right. Yeah, that's what I think. That's a big reason for me. It's the $10 million. If salary cap's dropping,
Yeah.
I would do it. So
Yeah. So I can tell you, I can tell this now. I can tell the story. I could tell you that from personal experience that Mario was pumped to come back next year. I talked to Mario Addison, and by talk to him, I had dinner with him last Wednesday night that I couldn't talk about, but I can now. So as real as they come, man, extremely down to earth. Probably not what most people expect out of a guy that plays defensive end for the NFL, but extremely nice guy. He was cool as hell, and he loves Buffalo. He does. He was telling me stories. He's like, he goes, I hear the stories about the fans. I can't wait. I can't wait to experience that. I hope we get a full stadium next year. My neighbors love me. He goes, they shovel my damn driveway like every morning. He's like, it grew on me. I like it up here because people are great. Fans are unbelievable.
So that's what a lot of people right there. Oh, I'm going to go to Buffalo. Obviously, the franchise is definitely turned around, just the organization. But then they're like, I don't know about the city and everything, and then they get up there and they love it.
Yeah,
right. A lot of the old players haven't left; they're still there.
Yeah. Like the Jim Kellys, Thurman Thomases, those guys. Yeah, he doesn't live in the city. I can tell you that.
Right. Not many do.
Right. There's plenty of it, and I thought about that too. What about some of these guys? I was trying to think about them, like for Philly, for example. Like, do a lot of these players live out in the suburbs? Because he's 10 minutes, like Mario's 10 minutes from the stadium to get into practice, right? And he lives out in a nice neighborhood. It's close. There's things around, right? You can eat and do all those things. You live in like Philly, like if you live in the suburbs, you're not really close to the stadium. It's a 40-minute drive.
Oh, at least.
There's nothing like
shit. Russ and I told the story once. We went to a baseball game. It took like 3 hours to get there.
Yeah, 20 miles.
Yeah,
that's no joke.
So I mean, Chicago's the same way.
Yeah.
Stafford lives about a half an hour from Ford Field, so same idea there too.
Yes.
just far out in the suburbs. Like, there's not a good spot to be downtown there, obviously. So everybody's forced to be far away.
Right.
So the draw there, I
Yes.
could see being tough to.
Which I
pull
heard
people
today,
there.
Stafford's house is really nice.
There was rumors.
There's a basketball court with the Detroit Pistons logo on the house and everything. It's really nice.
I mean, it's not Kid Rock's, but it's probably pretty nice.
Well,
Kid Rock.
maybe Kid Rock can buy that one too because Stafford's moving out of town, pal.
Finally.
That's the rumors.
No. All right. I don't think you know what you have with Stafford.
Stafford is not the issue in Detroit.
He was wasted there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree with that, but I just feel like they kept trying to put variables together with him that weren't working out. So,
They didn't put good variables.
Yeah.
yeah,
They
you're
never
right.
had
You're right there.
they never had a running game ever.
They just try to pick up receivers.
And
to match up with
everyone,
them.
obviously, Calvin Johnson retired really early.
They've been
but,
running games with Barry Sanders.
right, but I think that was a little before
Yeah, that
Stafford's
was-
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a long time since he left.
But yeah, I mean, in receiving wise, he's really had Megatron. That's all he's ever. Galladay's kind of stepped up, but I believe he's a free agent now, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, I had a couple questions for you guys.
So the rumor is Indy
Yep.
for Stafford. Some said New England, but with Matt Patricia going back there, I don't think Stafford's going to want to go back
Yeah.
there.
Rumors they didn't like each other.
Wouldn't shock me.
Right.
Wouldn't shock me at all. So what's your question?
So
Here we go.
we got like 9 or 10 here. Two QBs, you choose one in their prime. Some of these guys obviously way past their prime, not in the league anymore. Some of these guys probably haven't hit their prime yet. So just quick answer.
No other variable. Just
Right.
pick
in,
the QB.
In their
These are-
prime, who would you take?
Wait, these are like you're putting them against each other.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, first one. Russell Wilson or Drew Brees? And if you guys have different answers, then I'll decide it.
Russell Wilson.
Breeze.
I would go Russell Wilson. Peyton or Brady?
Peyton.
Probably Peyton.
Oh, all right.
On the same. Yeah. All right. We don't want to debate it, but
Josh Allen or Baker Mayfield?
Josh.
yeah.
Fitz or Tua?
Fitz. I mean, Tua's young, but
Yeah, that's the one that's tough to answer. Tua's nowhere near his prime,
Yeah.
so we don't know what he's going to be like.
I think I would take Tua prime.
If I was on the Dolphins right now, I would choose Tua
Right.
going forward for the next couple of years.
Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts?
I'm risking Jalen Hurts.
I'm risking that as well.
Cam Newton or Phillip Rivers
In their prime.
in their prime?
Ooh.
I think this is a good one.
Just I got to debate a little bit on this one to make my points. I think Cam was very good in his prime, healthy with a good system at Carolina. I think all-around quarterback, just being able to throw the ball and read defenses, Phillip Rivers, but Phillip never really had great weapons around him.
So what's your answer?
Phillip.
I agree with all that. In their prime, healthy in Carolina, I'm taking Cam Newton.
I'm with Ross. Prime, healthy, I'm taking Cam all day over Rivers.
His throwing was good enough, and he could run the ball a million times better than
Right.
Rivers.
Yep. Matt Ryan or Matt Stafford?
Ooh, boy.
We just talked about, Stafford. He just
So this is where I hypothetically, if I transplant Stafford into Atlanta 6 years ago, are they better off than they have been the last 6 years?
I'm going to say Stafford. I think Stafford's very talented and just
Yeah. I lean towards Stafford for some reason also.
Yeah, so I lean that way. Matt Ryan obviously gets sacked a ton. He does not move well.
Mm-hmm.
Stafford doesn't move well, but he's more mobile than Matt Ryan is.
Yep.
Rodgers or Mahomes?
I'm going to make the assumption Mahomes is not yet in his prime,
Agreed.
right.
and I believe he has a chance to go down as one of the best ever. So I would take Mahomes.
I think, yes, I agree with Russ on that. I think so tough because Rodgers literally just had probably maybe the best year of his career, right? He's 37 years old.
Right.
Right. So it's tough. And the argument before the year was Rodgers didn't have any wide receivers. And now we have 3 guys on that team that everyone knows who the wide receivers are.
Yeah.
That's my only, I don't know. I mean, Mahomes is good. I just feel like, I don't know, man. It's Rodgers, right?
Right.
And I just know that I'd like to see Mahomes on a mediocre team.
So to Russ's point, I'm curious. Obviously, I don't think any of us think he's in his prime yet. But how much higher can he go? I mean, what else? You know what I mean? Like, what else can he do that even puts him up another level? Because I feel like he's already on that top level, right?
Oh, 100% he's on the top
Yeah.
level. I mean, he's he's about to play in his 3rd straight Super Bowl.
Right.
If he plays in 6 straight, if he plays in
I mean,
starting,
yeah,
if you start 2 years ago, if he goes on a streak of playing in 8 out of 10 Super Bowls or something,
right.
it's hard not to throw him into that
Oh, yeah,
conversation.
yeah,
of
absolutely.
Best ever.
I think he's a very good quarterback. There's a reason he was top 10 pick or whatever. I think he went 10th, didn't he? He took the Bills.
Yeah, somewhere in there, 10, 12,
somewhere
somewhere
around
in there.
Yeah. I also think the best thing that happened to him was when he got drafted, didn't they then pick up Andy Reid his rookie year?
I think
was Reid already
I think
there?
Reid was already
Reid
there.
was already there with Alex Smith.
So, yeah, as good as he is, he's even better because he learned right from the beginning. It wasn't like he had something ingrained in him, got a new coach or something. You know what I mean? He came in, learned from some of the best, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Scheme-wise, reading defenses. So,
And last one, Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson?
Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. Yes.
I think Watson's like in his prime right now. I think Lamar's got a little bit to go. I think he's going to learn to throw the ball.
Going to have to.
And I believe I read today, he is very close to an extension. So.
Yeah, the GM said that he should be in Baltimore for a very long time.
Yeah. Lamar in Baltimore is that situation where you can't let him leave. It's
Right.
similar to the Josh Allen in Buffalo situation.
Yeah. Yep.
You have to lock him up. You can't let him leave.
By the way, one last Bills thing. I thought this would piss you guys off.
Thank you.
Based on things this year, Max Kellerman said that he would take Russell Wilson over Josh Allen.
Did he have criteria that he backed it up with?
Yeah, what would
So the argument they were talking about Lamar getting the extension, and he said there's 7 quarterbacks I would take, and they put up this little graphic. There's 7 quarterbacks I would take before I took Lamar, and it was like Mahomes, Rodgers, Brady. I think 5 was Russell Wilson. You had Josh Allen 6th
like right now he would take them
this
or
year. Yeah, like right now.
like
If you had to make a team going into next year,
for 1 year or going
Just in
forward?
general,
'Cause I'm
like-
not taking Rodgers or Brady if I'm going forward 3 years.
but he's like, if you had to pick a quarterback right now, he said it would. I'm like, okay. We talked about Russell Wilson for like 6-7 weeks.
I would, if I got to go one year next year, I probably would take Wilson over Allen.
I would.
He's proven himself for a number of years.
Maybe. Yes.
Allen's he was very mediocre his first 2 years, had a very good third year this year.
The hypothetical
know.
there is not, we're going the next year with his quarterback. He's saying right now, if he ranked his quarterbacks, the Lamar's not in his top 7, that he had Russell Wilson above Josh Allen.
We have no reason to dislike Josh Allen. I don't think that statement's as ridiculous as you're making it sound.
I'm not saying it's ridiculous. I'm saying I wouldn't take
Okay.
Russell.
All right.
Yeah.
I think Russell had one of the best wide receivers in the league this year, and they didn't.
Yeah, but so did Allen.
Agreed. But Russell Wilson, like you said, has got more experience.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally fell on their ass the last half of the year.
Right, but their defense struggled big time going down the stretch. So,
But then they made the playoffs, right?
yeah, they lost to Rams.
And they didn't even put up that many points, did they?
No,
Can't remember the
'cause-
score of that game.
no, because Rams defense shut them down. Yeah. Which is why the Rams defensive coordinator is not a head
I'd
coach.
say Aaron Donald had a field day on their offensive line.
Yeah, I would take Allen over. I'm just trying to bias aside. After what I saw the back, I mean, if Wilson had a steady, consistent year, I don't know. It just seems like last year he had good games and then they just kind of fell off as a team. I don't know what changed, but either way. All right, what else? We got to we done with football?
Yeah. We'll talk Super Bowl next week.
Next week, yeah, there's a lot going on.
So UFC 257.
Where were you?
Where was I? At home with no cable TV or pay-per-view.
Dude,
I was ready.
You could have drove like 2 minutes.
But I was ready, hitting update, because I knew it wasn't going to be that long. And as soon as it was done, there was a highlight reel of everything. So did I really miss out that much?
Yeah, you did.
Bonding time with us.
You could have enjoyed our company.
Okay.
That's like recording the Bills-Chiefs game and watching it Monday night. Come on, dude.
Just the fourth quarter.
Right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I mean, Tegan even joined us.
I do got to say, phones work two ways, and I didn't get a text like, "Hey, where you at?"
Timeout.
I didn't either.
I didn't either.
I invited myself over.
I said, Kyle, you get in the fight tonight? I'm coming over.
There's very few people have open door policy, and you are one of them.
See, you say that, but I showed up 10 minutes earlier than usual today, and the door was locked. So I was standing out on the sidewalk I looked like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction, just looking around.
Timeout. You were a little early, which is totally fine. I was in the shower, but normally Russ is the first one here. Is the door usually unlocked when you get here?
Yes.
He
If I know you're coming.
he wavered a little bit on that answer.
Yeah.
I think it's been locked.
But sometimes I'm
bias
busy.
here, Russ.
I'm gonna shit on these two guys a little bit, only because I watch your dogs. If it's locked, I have a key, so I just come in.
That's more than an open door policy. That's the closed door policy.
Well, yeah, we watched the fights here. You could have came over. I know what you're doing. You just, yeah. You don't watch. I usually get like every pay-per-view.
He said refreshing, but I think his finger was going right and left.
Yeah. He's got one of those things now that just spins.
More right than left.
Spins. Catch a hit.
Anywho.
Anyway, pretty good card. First three fights were all right on the main card.
Yep.
But I think the ones we want to talk about are the light heavyweights or the lightweights.
Lightweights.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Michael Chandler knocked out Dan Hooker. My prediction for that fight was on our podcast. The podcast you did with me today was because Chandler, I went back and watched some film on Chandler. Very fast out of the gate is usually his game plan.
We should mention he's his first UFC
First
fight.
UFC fight. So there wasn't a lot to go off from.
Yep.
And Dan Hooker's coming off a loss to Poirier where he got beat up pretty good.
Yep.
And Dan Hooker was supposed to be the next title contender everyone talked about.
Yep.
And he probably would have got a title shot if he beat Poirier.
Yes.
And I thought that if Hooker, toughness wise, could get out of the first, get it through 3 rounds, 2 rounds, the longer it went, he probably had the advantage because Chandler's got a lot of pace in him. And what we saw was, and what you and I talked about after the fight is Chandler's chin somewhat compromised after that ass kicking he took from Poirier.
Hooker's chin.
Hooker's chin, yes. Yeah, not Chandler, Hooker.
It certainly could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of that happening in boxing for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he got knocked on his ass, knocked out.
First round.
Technical knockout, or whatever. Yeah, and he also, I think about a minute before he got knocked out, I said he is just backpedaling and running around the ring.
Circling the same direction.
Yeah, and if he keeps doing that, he's going to get caught. It doesn't take a good boxer to catch a guy like that. So I don't know if maybe he had the same thought that his chin was compromised and he was trying to keep extreme distance and, I don't know, look for a shot or something.
That sounds like a terrible attitude to take into a fight.
I mean, Russ brought it up. He said when it happened, I mean, he was circling the same direction, and Chandler just timed it with a left hand and hit him and knocked him down. And Russ said anybody in the top 10 would have done that tonight.
Yeah.
Because that's all he was doing was going one direction.
So that was, they're hyping up Chandler. They were hyping up Chandler before this fight.
Yeah.
And they are, especially now afterwards. But that's the reason I made that comment was we didn't learn anything about Chandler in that fight.
Correct.
Yes, he won. Yes, he took advantage of Hooker's weird defense mechanisms. But, yeah, it didn't take a top contender to beat Hooker Saturday night. So I don't know that we learned much about Chandler. That's not his fault. He took advantage of the situation.
No, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and he was on McAfee today.
Good interview,
and
too.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely recommend finding that and listening.
Yeah, they probably
he
cut it and
like,
just that interview.
Yeah, he was electric the whole time on there. I mean, McAfee was loving him, but I mean, yeah, and obviously after he called out Khabib and McGregor and Poirier and
when you say electric,
like
I'll aim this at you. Not electric like Colby Covington annoying.
No.
Okay.
No, he was just he's no. So
that guy's annoying.
he
as
seemed
shit.
he seemed very like down to earth
he's
type of guy.
I'll say this. I think he's a great addition for the UFC.
Okay. Sounds good.
And they even mentioned the whole like, demeanor, and he's like, I don't play the mean mugging thing. It's just not me. He's like, these guys, I respect them as individuals. I know the work they put in. Like Poirier, he goes, I went to weigh-ins and sat next to Poirier and, chopped it up with him. Mm-hmm. And, it's like, I think he's sending Poirier like groove rings, wedding rings.
Right.
So I think he might be sponsored by him or something. He's like, yeah, they talked about that. And he's like, it's just a business. So when the cage closes, they're guys with 2 arms, 2 legs, and targets on them.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
and
no brain.
He's got no brain.
He's got no brain.
As McAfee said, you guys all poop the same, right?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, I mean, and he did state today he will not be doing any more backflips off the ring.
Well, Dana White wasn't happy about that.
White was.
Yeah,
White called him out after it, but yeah, he said he will not.
Says the first time he's actually ever done one off the cage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And as he said, he went full send.
Yeah. Thankfully, he didn't blow a knee out, which
Dana White was
obviously is Dana's concern.
Dana was pissed.
Yeah. Last thing you want to do is win your UFC debut, an enormous fight, and then you're out for 18 months because you blow an ACL out.
So you guys left. I stayed up till 3 a.m. and watched the press conference where they bring the fighter in, bring the next one in.
Yeah.
I stayed up and watched that. I got to give props to Conor. I felt like he handled himself. I like this Conor.
Me too.
During fight week.
It's almost like the new Tiger Woods at the same.
It's like
where that old fake shell is gone.
Right. Like you're gonna sell a fight. I get that. Like you got to do your thing. He did that for a long time. It's like you and Poirier fought once. Poirier is not the same fighter he was. Which, by the way, Artem Lobov, I think, used to be or is in Conor's camp or whatever. Remember Artem?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No longer with UFC.
Yeah.
He made a comment and said, I don't know why everyone's saying Dustin's a different fighter. He was a good fighter back then. So does that mean Conor didn't improve either? Like, what kind of to me that was a dumb statement. Like, to ignore the fact that Poirier hasn't improved after what he's done over the last 2 years, while Conor was sitting on his ass most of the time, is kind of ignorant, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Dustin was a good fighter. He was also younger. Changed teams, went to American Top Team instead of training at his tiny gym in Louisiana. He's not fighting at 155, not 145. He's a lot bigger. I don't think he has to cut as much weight to make weight.
Yep.
But I thought Conor handled it well. His presser was, fair play to Dustin. He kept bringing up the calf kicks. He said he's never experienced anything like it.
I thought I saw, is he on a 6-month suspension now, medical suspension?
He might be the over just hit.
No.
Oh.
No, it's still 3-2. 3 minutes left.
I like it.
Taylor told us with like 13 minutes left a second.
Look up,
He's like, there's no chance they don't score again, is there?
Look up Conor McGregor's medical suspension or UFC 257 medical suspension. I thought I saw.
It might be.
I don't know if it was a true headline that he was on a 6-month suspension now.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
So, it's usually like.
Because didn't someone say didn't Conor say that he wanted a third match in May?
So what they do, though, is what Russ is saying is you get evaluated after the fight, and they do like the athletic commission, whoever will do what they call medical suspensions, based on like your review or what happens.
And pretty much everyone from the card will get suspended, like even Poirier, but it might only be a week or 2 weeks.
They all say possibly out for up to 6 months. Okay. So
in case you guys can't
who
say,
knows?
he's doing air quotes
Lots of
as
air
well.
quotes.
But it's also it's like pending, like they got, or might be 6 months, 2 weeks, no contact, pending X-rays.
Kind of like concussion protocol for Patrick Mahomes, right? It's just whatever they decide they want to do. Sorry, I had to vent that.
But that's basically what it is.
So like if someone gets knocked out that bad, they're probably like, 6 month medical suspension. And then obviously like a couple weeks later, they probably evaluate him again.
They just keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
For him too, it's his leg.
Well, yeah.
But he kept bringing that up. He's like, he said he's never experienced that.
Yeah.
Just didn't.
It also shows Conor's inability to fight out of the orthodox stance.
Yep.
Yes.
Because he's known for being a southpaw, one of the better lefties in the UFC's ever seen. And if you're getting kicked that bad on your front leg, your first strategy should be to switch stances and therefore take some of those kicks on the other leg to give your
For
lead
the
leg
first
time
2
to-
rounds or so.
Yeah, give your lead leg some time to heal, and only take half of those kicks.
He said it was like the second kick he took like really got to him.
Yeah.
It was funny because they asked Chandler about that day because McAfee's always said if he wanted to fight, like he feels like he could only kick because obviously he was a punter. So, but they asked Chandler about it. And he said I don't kick because I can't tell how many times I've missed by just a little bit and it hurts if you don't kick them right. So,
Yep.
and he said it probably doesn't like kills your leg when they're kicking you, but it's more of like a nuisance. Like you feel it hurts. And then obviously
It
after a
slowly
while,
builds over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like body shots in boxing.
yeah.
And Connor was walking on crutches.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
I want to say that I was wrong last week because I said if Conor McGregor loses,
What did you
especially
wanna
by
say?
knockout. Yeah, I was wrong. I said I don't think that we'll see him again. I figured he was dipping his toes in the water, but immediately after the fight, his comments were that he lost because this isn't an industry where you can take time off. You need to be in it the whole way. And he didn't say necessarily he's coming for another fight, but Dana White says in his press conference that those two are obviously going to be fighting for Khabib's belt, right?
So that's the next
We
argument.
don't really know yet, but that just seems the way that he was alluding.
Russ has a better fight, I think.
So right now, Khabib is still the title holder.
Correct.
He had conversations with Dana White prior to this weekend, and basically said if any of the 4 lightweights in the 2 co-main events, impressed him enough that he would come back.
But then
fight.
he said to Dana, I'm so many levels above all these people. Meaning, it doesn't seem like he's interested at all. Why would he want to?
Well, money.
Yeah, you're right.
Money and 30 wins. He has 29-0. 30-0 sounds better. I know there's some people that aren't fans of Khabib, but right now none of these guys have proven that they are on his level. So it's not he doesn't need to say it out loud, but he's not all that wrong either. So the first variable is Khabib truly retired or is he going to fight again? And I believe Dana White is going to force him to make that decision soon. He's probably got some time to kill because these guys have to get healthy again. So if Khabib decides to fight again, then to me you have Khabib and Poirier for the title.
Definitely. I think McGregor needs to win another fight. If you
don't
take
think
time off, I think
McGregor's-
you have to fight your way back up the ranks. I don't think you should be grandfathered in ready for
I
another
think
title.
he should have to fight 2. He's only fought twice at lightweight.
Yeah. So in my opinion, let's say Khabib fights again. You've got Khabib and Poirier for the title. In my opinion, you put Conor McGregor in with Justin Gaethje.
Love that fight.
And let them fight to take on whoever gets the belt months down the line.
I'm not 100% sure where you throw Chandler in the mix here. Do you have Chandler fight the winner of Conor Gaethje depending on when that fight happens? There's some moving parts. If Khabib decides to stay retired, then Poirier fights for the title. You could make an argument whether or not he fights Gaethje or Chandler for that belt. And then I would say, depending on which one fights Khabib, the other fights Conor. I think Conor's ability to sell a fight does outweigh the fact that he just lost. Actually, he's lost his last 2 fights, right? He lost Khabib before this.
Yes, I think that was the other night was his 3rd fight at lightweight, right? Because he won the belt.
He won the belt.
Then he fought Khabib. Because he fought
Diaz at 155 once.
Because then they fought at a different weight
And then
class
they fought
later.
at 170.
170.
When Diaz beat Conor, it was at 155. And that's why they went to 170, because Diaz said,
Right.
I beat you at your weight class. You come up to mine now.
Right.
So he won the belt. I don't even remember who he won the belt against. But then he...
Aldo, wasn't it?
No, that would have been 145.
Then it was, if it wasn't Aldo, it had been Alvarez. I think he beat Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah. So Alvarez, Diaz, Khabib, and now Poirier. So he's had at least 4 fights at 155. Unfortunately, the biggest moving part of this is what is Khabib doing?
Do you think if he comes back, it'll be a one and done, like how Mayweather is doing his career now, where it seems like he just sort of nitpicks? Do you think it'll be that, or do you think once he gets back in, he'll just fight 5 or 10
Mayweather
more
runs his mouth to try to stay relevant because he's broke.
Khabib the reason Khabib retired was because the last fight was his first fight since his father's death. And he had basically, family is paramount to him, and he had basically said he wasn't going to keep going to the ring without his father.
That's why I don't see him coming back. He's so strong in his morals.
But if he's willing to do it one more time, then I don't see why he wouldn't be willing to keep going. To be honest, as much money as like Khabib Poirier or Khabib McGregor again would make, I could see Dana throwing a bigger contract than usual at Khabib. Hey, I'll sign you for 3 guaranteed fights, and you're going to make at least $20 million a fight. That's tough to turn down.
Is he not under contract at all, or does he have another fight? Or
I think he still has a fight on his contract.
Yeah, I think he still has one, but
at least one. Yeah,
but obviously, if you retire, that
right.
So here's my hang up right now.
Wait, before you go, isn't there someone else? I thought I saw the listening.
I'll get into
it. Okay.
Yep. So I agree with you that Khabib has shown he is levels above all these guys. He's beat them all. And, he said, well, I don't want to fight again without my dad, which is understandable. You said, you respect somebody's, their religion, their family beliefs are.
And didn't he tell his dad he would go, he wanted to go third, for his dad, but then he told his mom,
I won't fight without mom and dad. Right. So I understand all that, and he is. He's probably more so than anybody else I've ever seen in my lifetime. Is pretty like Taylor said, pretty strong in his morals, and he's going to stick to that.
Yep.
Where I'm irritated is he made the comment, I'm not going to hold up the lightweight division. This is exactly what you're doing right now.
Yep.
Because you're so strong in those morals, but yet you entertain Dana White the week before, and you have a meeting, and your comment to Dana is, well, if they impress me, right? But then Dana White had a conversation with Khabib before he ever talked to McGregor or Poirier after that fight through a text message, and Khabib said what Taylor said. Oh, Dana, let's be honest with yourself. I'm levels above these guys. Like, to me, I felt like you already thought that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't they all think that way? You kind of have to get to.
But he's right. Level. I mean, he's right though. He's got the belt, and like I felt like he already had that preconceived notion, and I feel like he gave Dana White that time of day out of respect because that's the kind of guy he is. You know what I mean? He's very much in his respect and stuff. And then I get there's bad blood between him and Conor, but then he takes to Twitter and like knocks Conor. Well, like talking about like kicking a man while you're down type of thing. And Chandler brought that up today. He goes, I get there's bad blood there, but at the same time, like. The guy just got knocked out, and you go to Twitter minutes later, and you knock the guy, and kick him while he's down. He's like, you want to talk about being respectful? Like, you can't play this card that you're a super respectful guy, and then go do something like that to a guy whether you like him or not. He still put in the work and put his ass on the line, right? Regardless if you like him or not.
Yep.
So I feel like he is, even though he says, "Oh, I'm not holding up the division," you are holding up the division. In my opinion, looking back on it. After his comments to Dana White, it's almost like he didn't really intend of having any intentions of coming back. That fight Saturday night should have been for the belt. And right now, Dustin Poirier should hold that belt, and that division should move on. Because even if Khabib decides, I might come back, when? Are we going to drag this out for another year?
Let whoever fight for the belt, and then if you want to come back, then you can have your title shot when you come back.
Do you think this will set a precedence for a time limit? Of holding the belt for how long?
That's as I say.
Dana needs to make an example.
Dana is not going to let him sit out for a year.
Right.
That's why I don't know.
How long has it been already? Right.
Not long.
No, not long.
It's been like 6 or 7
October.
months, right?
Yeah, it was probably October.
I think.
What my gripe is though is like he made that comment so quick after the fight.
Yeah.
It's almost like you already had it on, like, were you pretexting Dana?
He just said it for 2 a.m.
See, I don't know. I think if Khabib had given up the belt a month ago, I don't know that this fight between Conor and Poirier would have been for the belt. I think these two fights were going to happen anyway. If Khabib had given up the belt, I think Dana would have used these two fights as contender fights. And then schedule the title fight for mid-year. In my opinion, as of right now,
like fight week, International Fight Week, like July or something like that.
So I think even if Khabib had given it up, the belt would not have been on the line this past weekend. So in my opinion, I don't quite think Khabib is holding the division up yet.
Well, I looked at the fight. It was October 24th, so realistically, that's 3 months.
The reason I say I think Dustin is the champ is because he's coming off. His only loss in the last 2 years is Khabib. And he bounced back from that loss, beat the shit out of Hooker, who was the next best thing, and then just went out and knocked out Conor.
But Conor's last fight was a loss to Khabib.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what was prior to that. So if the belt was on the line this past weekend, would Conor be deserving of that?
No, and
which is why I don't think it would have been on the line.
Well, Khabib, he lost to Khabib, beat Cowboy, which no disrespect to Cowboy.
That wasn't a fair matchup.
That was a paycheck for Cowboy.
Yeah.
That's what that was.
Yeah.
And he deserves that paycheck because he's been a company man for years.
So Khabib's comments about Conor, that's a separate topic, and I agree they were unnecessary. In my opinion, like I just said, I don't think the belt would have been on the line this past weekend. And going forward, whenever the next whatever matchup you want to put out there, I believe Dana will force Khabib to make a decision. Either you're fighting or I'm stripping you. Which is why, in my mindset, right now he's not holding the division up.
So, I was with you. I thought the assumption was after Saturday was the winner of those two fights would fight for the belt. Poirier said he's got no interest in fighting Chandler.
If Dana,
yeah, he did.
So I like Poirier. I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah.
If Dana goes to Poirier and says, "Hey, Khabib is out. Khabib is no longer. He's retired." And I want you to fight Chandler for the belt, and Poirier turns that down. That's extremely stupid on Poirier's part.
Agreed.
That comment doesn't make sense to me from Poirier's standpoint.
So here was his logic, and this is it's so weird to listen to these guys because like I get they go through camp, and they're all like, I want to be the champ, and then the fight's over. They're like, yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go back home. I don't give a shit. They got my number. He was on ESPN this morning. He's like, oh, UFC's got my number. If they want to talk to me, they know how to get a hold of me. It's a very odd mentality, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, his goal is, he's like, I don't care who it is, I want to fight. But his argument was, and it made a little bit of sense to me. He said, he goes, and it's nothing against Chandler. I think he's a great fighter. He said, but I feel like, he goes, I've got 27 fights in the UFC. I just knocked out the biggest name in the UFC. My only losses to Khabib was a title fight. He was an interim title holder himself at one time. Mm-hmm. He said he doesn't feel like that, and he said it was no disrespect to Chandler, that Chandler should get the title fight, and he had no interest in fighting a guy who's coming off a win off a guy he just knocked out after Chandler has only fought once in the UFC. And he thinks Charles Oliveira is the one who deserves a title shot. He said he has more interest in that because he said Oliveira's been around. He had a really good performance, I think like a month ago or something like that. I'm not sure. Can you look up Oliveira? I honestly don't know what his. He just made the comment. He's like, he's been knocked down before. He's been doing. He's come back. He's built himself back up. He's been fighting well.
He fought Tony Ferguson on December 12th.
He beat the shit out of Ferguson.
Prior to that was Kevin Lee. That was by submission in the third round. So,
okay,
both notable names, I would say. I mean,
yeah. I mean, he's a little overrated.
Yeah, Kevin Lee's not.
He's a name, but I don't know.
Yeah,
he's proven to be overrated. He just said it didn't interest.
I agree. I agree with what he's saying, that Chandler maybe hasn't paid his dues in the UFC. He is 30-some years old and has a bunch of fights in other venues. It's not like this is a 19-year-old kid who only has one fight under his belt total. Oliveira, I haven't thought about. Do you think Oliveira would deserve it over Gaethje?
That was brought up to him as well. They said he said I think it's Charles Oliveira is just, I think he's more deserving. And then whoever was asking the question said, what about someone like Justin Gaethje? And he was like, he's another one.
Yeah, because Gaethje was on a hell of a hot streak and then lost to Khabib, who you could argue is the best ever in the division. So I don't hold that against him too much.
Yeah, he lost to Poirier, went on a hot streak, and then lost to Khabib.
If this is just Poirier answering a question about Chandler, then I agree with what he's saying. If that fight is offered to him for the belt and he says no, then that would be absolutely stupid.
I agree. I think he'd say yes. That's what I mean. I just, sometimes the mentality of these guys when they're answering questions, I was like,
yeah,
why do you care? Like then in the same, and again, I love Poirier. I've been on this guy for a couple of years. You guys know that.
Yeah.
almost to say that, and then basically, a few questions later, say, well, my ultimate goal is just to be a champion. I don't care who I fight. I'm not worried about the name. But then to say that a fight with Chandler doesn't interest you because he's coming off a win off a guy, and he's coming off a win in his first UFC fight against a guy you've already knocked out, is basically what he said.
I think I would, if obviously you guys know UFC better than I do, I think I would make Chandler fight one more time before give him a shot at the belt.
And I think that's a good idea.
Because it was only, fought for 6 minutes?
They didn't even finish the
No,
round.
4 minutes, whatever it was.
Yeah, but you can't hold that part against him. The same as like Conor winning the belt from Aldo, beating him in 13 seconds. You can't put an asterisk on that just because it was a short fight.
The only
I just
thing
didn't know if you could because it was his first one. I don't know.
I think
because anyone can, right? We've talked about that. Yeah. Anyone can land a punch.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I just made that argument, but at the same time, the matchmakers put you in there. They lock the cage. The outcome is what it is.
Yep.
Right.
If you want the belt, you fight who's in front of you.
Yeah.
I think if Chandler wants to stay active, depending on what Poirier's situation is, medical suspension, I don't think it's too bad. Can't be too bad, right? He's not
For who?
Poirier.
I wouldn't think it's bad. I don't know.
Right.
It can't be that bad.
But I'm assuming like Chandler could probably fight next week.
Yeah.
Would be my guy. He really didn't take any damage, and just, if anything, they're going to check his left hand and make sure his hands aren't broke or something. So I guess if Chandler wants to stay active and fight again, do that.
The only reason I was hesitant on that is you can't have Chandler and somebody else fight in like June without a title and then make Poirier sit and wait until December or something.
So I don't know who else.
Chandler's going to fight again. It's got to be soon.
Could you maybe have Poirier fight Oliveira and then like Gaethje fight Chandler, and then the winners of that have a title fight?
In my opinion, Poirier's next fight is for the belt.
Yep.
Okay.
So no, he doesn't deserve another tune-up. If it's for the
belt. If Poirier and Oliveira fight for the belt, then obviously whoever wins that has the belt, and then you could have Chandler and Gaethje fight, and then the winner of that, 6 months down the road, could fight for it or whatever it is.
I'm fine with that. But no matter what Poirier's next fight, you have to make it for the belt.
Whether he won't, I just don't think he would fight if it wasn't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, whether it's against Khabib or whether they strip Khabib or he sits out and they give it to somebody else, the opportunity to somebody else, his next fight has to be for the belt.
Correct. I agree. I mean, it's funny because I sent you a screenshot from Twitter the other day.
Yeah. I almost went and looked that guy up and got into it, but
Did you?
Just didn't feel like it.
Oh, come on. You can get into it.
Did you think I wasn't rude?
You call Kyle in afterwards.
No, I didn't.
That's what I do.
Dad, come help me.
I made a general statement to a guy who we follow, who's a professional bettor. Okay. I made a general statement because he said, what a weird fight. And I'm like, Russ and I both sat here on the couch. Russ won $300 on the damn fight or somewhere right around there.
Yeah.
We're both on the same page. We've been on Poirier for a couple years now and said, this kid's legit. And I thought he was stylistically wise, was the toughest fight that Khabib was going to have. And honestly, I think that is, right? I mean, Dustin almost choked him out, just too sweaty, couldn't lock it in.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I basically said, like, if you think that fight was weird and that Conor was going to walk through Dustin, you probably shouldn't bet on MMA.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that guy's comments were purely betting based and not MMA fan based. I mean, I think that guy was saying like all the bets, a majority of the bets were on Conor.
They were. It was like it was like 80% of the money went in on him.
And Conor has the hype around him, which understandably so. The guy can sell a fight, promote himself, and good for him for doing that. But if you are a true MMA fan, true UFC fan, and you were surprised by what Poirier did, then you're not really a fan.
Yeah,
you're a casual person who got locked into the Conor hype.
My take on what you just said was if 80% of the money was on Conor McGregor, I bet 90% of that money was from people that aren't even UFC fans. They see Conor McGregor everywhere they scroll.
Yes. Oh, Conor's fighting. I'll throw a little bit of cash on this.
He's gonna win, right? He's got to win.
I would say a lot of times looking where the money's going is a good way to do it, but not with an outlier like that.
Here's the key. It'd be interesting. How many people put money on Connor that couldn't pronounce Poirier's name?
Exactly.
And that
McAfee.
Poirier.
and that probably sums
Fucking-
it up.
Isn't that chicken in Spanish? Poirier.
Oh, yo.
Now,
So this Twitter debate that we're talking about, it wasn't really, and he came back at me. I thought he was actually being the asshole,
yeah, yes, I agree with that.
and he basically was like, he basically told me he talks to smart. I have people on my show smarter than you. I said to Russ, I'm like, well, must be his definition of smart and mine are a little different.
What a bold assumption, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's like, don't be a dick, enjoy the win. I responded back and said, I wasn't being a dick. I was pointing out the fact that Connor he brings the hype. There is people that might be the only fight they buy all year if Connor's fighting. That's maybe the only pay-per-view fight they watch.
Yep.
Because it's Connor. And I basically ended it with, maybe I know a little more about MMA than you think I do.
I'll say it's the first time I've ever been scrolling around and seen franchises that have nothing to do with fighting at all, that have specific Conor McGregor specials just because he's fighting.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
It's another level. I almost equate him to like the Arnold Palmer of fighting, the way he markets so broad spectrum.
Listen, I've been a Connor fan for years. He's done some really stupid shit outside of the octagon, right?
For sure.
Right? I'm not going to deny that. But when Connor fought Khabib and everyone's like, oh, this is where Khabib gets beat, you and I both were like, Connor's getting his ass whipped tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was zero surprise for me, or I think Ross in that one. I'm like,
Yep.
this fight's over before it starts.
Yeah.
He's got no chance of winning this fight.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just stylistically does not match up. And I think there was people that truly were like surprised that Conor lost that fight to Khabib.
Right. And
then once he lost, they were all on Khabib's dick.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because at that time, Connor clearly standing, his boxing is way better than Khabib's. Not that I think Khabib is better than most people give him credit for standing, but Connor had absolutely no takedown defense, and then when he got taken down, he had even less defense than any of us.
Khabib's gonna take you to the ground.
Yeah, and typically he is that far ahead of everybody else on the ground.
Poirier said this morning that sorry to keep interrupting.
No, you're
I'm just
fine.
like amped up here.
You're good.
Poirier said this morning that he basically agreed. He's like, yeah, he goes, Khabib is a level above people. He said his balance and awareness while grappling is next level.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cool to feel on the other side of that, like
right.
just how his awareness and balance and stuff is next level. They asked Chandler about Khabib's, important. Pat McAfee said, he's wrestling bears. And Chandler said, 1, it was a cub. 2, it was a trained cub.
See, that would actually be an interesting matchup because they claim Chandler has this elite wrestling background.
So that's what he talked about. Obviously,
But-
wrestled in Missouri. And
Do you know who he wrestled with? No. He wrestled with Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley. They're on the same wrestling team.
Yeah,
he said they were like big brothers to him.
pretty good team.
Yeah.
It's
That's how
pretty
you
good
get
wrestling.
fast right there.
But we've seen guys that supposedly have a good ground game get on the ground with Khabib and look like kids that have no idea what they're doing.
Poirier,
Yeah,
black belt in jiu-jitsu.
yeah, and then no matchup for Khabib.
Right.
So, we got to see Khabib's decision. I think this is going to be an interesting. To me, this is probably, other than John Jones and the heavyweights, I think this lightweight division is by far the most exciting right now.
Oh, for sure.
As far as what's going to happen
There's
this year.
exciting fighters in that division who don't deserve title shots right now that could make good fights.
Yeah.
Tony Ferguson.
Yeah,
I want to backtrack just a tiny bit. You were talking about McGregor out of the ring making a lot of bad decisions. So the reason I checked out there was I wanted to see how old he was when he had his first UFC fight. And I think he was 24 or just about 25. Mm-hmm. I'm 25. I make stupid decisions all the time. He's on this grand platform, and you're holding him accountable for that. He's 32 years old now.
Yeah, but when you're on that platform, you need to be.
I get it, but
Yeah,
I
but
think
he
there's a
wasn't
grain
20.
of salt.
He wasn't 25 years old when he punched an old man in the face a year ago.
Yes. Okay.
He was
Checkmate.
just
You're
sitting
right.
in a bar.
You're right.
I'm talking about that shit. Like, he's done a couple other things that
The chair through the bus window?
that's one of them. Some woman tried suing him the other day. That came out during fight week, and they did like a 2-year investigation, and they basically cleared Conor and said this is There's no evidence. It was all on video. He didn't do anything. And she's still trying to sue him for like.
I was going to say, I do think he nowadays has become a prime target for people accusing him of things he didn't do. But yeah,
Like-
he did do some stupid things.
He like what was it, like a year or two ago? He was walking into some place and some guy he's with his wife and his kid. The guy's like being an asshole. He was looking for a reaction on a counter. Kept like shoving his phone in his face.
Oh, didn't he grab the phone?
Which spiked the phone off the ground.
Which, depending on how that went, I don't blame him either.
I don't. Yeah, exactly.
I also don't understand, if you know who Conor McGregor is, why are you trying to provoke him anywhere?
Yeah.
Like, this guy could beat the shit out of you in 2 seconds.
Because that's a hell of a bar story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you live through it.
Yeah.
True.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah. Good
things
year.
are going well betting.
Yeah.
I lost my parlay already today.
But yeah, I was basically told, and Adam, I want your guys' opinion on this. I know you bet. You don't really bet, do you?
Not on football. I dabble in other things, though.
Okay. Basically, this.
Swipe right.
Yeah. He dabbles in other things. All right. This jackwagon tried telling me.
Which jackwagon?
Oh, the guy on Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, guys.
Smarter than me.
That's knucklehead to you.
He likes to use the term public money a lot. And like Adam and I were saying the other day, I'm like, fuck is public money?
Right.
What is that?
The Pepsi Corp isn't going around and placing bets, right?
Right.
The
And
individuals
it's because, I said, is it these guys who claim to be pro gamblers? You're not a pro gambler because you gamble nonstop. You're a pro gambler because you got rich doing something else and you have a bankroll.
Yeah, yeah.
So I said to Adam, like, so if you, what's the criteria of not being public money? You got a big bankroll and you bet on games, therefore you're considered a sharp because you place large amounts of money. I got news for everybody in Vegas. I love it there. You guys are in for a rude awakening because with all this mobile betting coming out, there might be people smarter than you out there.
Yes.
And I might be one of them.
Yeah.
I wonder if it has to do with having a specific account for it.
I think that people have large bankrolls, and therefore you're known at the book.
There's probably a dollar amount figure out there that if you bet X number of dollars in 3 consecutive months, all of a sudden you're at some level of, hey, this guy's now doing this professionally.
That was my thought. It's like day trading. If you have
Enough
more
money
than
to
25
move
grand.
the line.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of day trading,
So I
GameStop.
I heard about that today.
Yeah.
So I just think him and I are talking about. I'm like, Vegas is in for a rude awakening because, 2 more states opened up last week with mobile betting. You and I and all of us can just drive across the border and go to PA. You're going to find out, and we just might be one of those group of people that might know just as much or more than these sharps. You might not have the back roll of the banking and all of that, but I know that the guy we're referring to is struggling in college basketball. Am I wrong?
Yeah. He was hot to start the year. Now he's
Yeah.
freezing. Ice cold.
You're not talking about the fake Navy SEAL, are you?
No.
Oh.
No. I don't know who anything you say is fake. I don't want to listen to.
I'm 45, 31, and 1 on the year in college basketball. If you would have put a unit on all of those games, you'd be up quite a few units, by the way. You do the math.
Suck it.
I'm 1-0 on James Harden triple-double bets.
Yeah.
He was struggling through that one.
Yeah, thank God I went to double OT.
I was going to say, that's a really bold bet anytime, isn't it? For any player to just call a triple-double.
FanDuel had a boost for
Yeah.
James Harden or Kevin Durant to have a triple-double in their second game together as the big three.
Gotcha.
That's actually a good boost to draw money in because the chances are between the two of them, as much as they shoot and score, there might not be a triple-double there.
Yeah. I took it. It hit.
I almost took a bonus, and then it seemed sacrilege. Do you know what I'm talking about? Did you see the Kelsey bonus? It was like all he had to hit was, I think, 120 yards.
Didn't see them.
I wanted to take it, but then I was like, if it turns out the way it did, I would feel like I caused it, you know?
I put some money on KC just that way I won that, and then if I didn't, I felt good.
You hedged.
True.
I had Knox as the first TD scorer there tonight, though.
Oh, so did I, but
I heard a lot of people did.
I had it in a parlay, so it didn't help me.
Oh.
Yep.
I just didn't hit the Bills.
So we're doing all right. I get screenshots from Ross about his bets he's winning too. I'm not trying to just talk about the times we won. We're going to have days where we lose a couple,
Oh, yeah.
but I'd say over the last month to 2, I think between the 3 of us combined, we're pretty far up if you're listening to that podcast. Over
I mean, I went 5-0 last night, and Kyle went
5-1.
5-1.
Split on NBA.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But you do you, Vegas.
That's right.
Smarter than you. Whatever, dude. I think it's pathetic that you have to have other people on your show. You live in Vegas, which is like the headquarters of UFC, and you don't know shit about it.
Right.
And you're betting on it. Shut up.
You got anything else?
No.
Let's move on to stars then.
Let's hit one hockey thing real quick.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yep.
The only drama that has gone on in hockey really is Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is a young, potentially elite center for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Prior to this year, he wasn't signed. He was a restricted free agent. Before camp, he basically made the statement that he had no interest in playing for the Columbus Blue Jackets anymore. So immediately that causes a stir. The Blue Jackets have John Tortorella, who is one of the few old school, no bullshit coaches left in maybe all of pro sports.
That's a nice way to put it.
When you think about like, a throwback coach to like the 70s who's not going to put up with stuff.
You mean like throwing trash cans in the locker room kind of guy?
Yeah.
Oh, he's done a lot worse than that.
Yeah. There was rumors there might be some beef between Dubois and Tortorella, or that he just wanted to simply get out and play in a bigger market than Columbus. He ended up signing a 2-year deal to basically Jody Shelley was on the Spit and Chickless today. I saw a quick clip. Jody covers the Blue Jackets. His theory was that he signed a reasonable 2-year deal to make him attractive to other teams.
Okay.
As far as a trade asset. Similar situation going on in Winnipeg with Patrick Laine, another young, talented, I'll call him an elite goal scorer, not an elite player.
Correct.
Ironically, Laine was picked second and Dubois was picked third overall in the same draft year just a few years ago. He wanted out of Winnipeg. Some stories have surfaced since that Blake Wheeler, their captain, and Scheifele, their top center, were, I guess I'll say, bullying him, for lack of a better term. And the coach wasn't doing anything to stop it, and he basically had no interest in playing with those guys anymore. So the big news last week was these two teams made the trade. So Columbus sent Dubois and a third rounder to Winnipeg for Patrick Laine and Jack Roslovich, who was another restricted free agent holdout, who ironically lives in the Columbus area. He had never reported to Winnipeg, which I got thinking, you asked me about quarantine being different for these players. So I think Roslovich was able to get in there so quick because he wasn't in Winnipeg. He was still living in Columbus.
Huh.
He happens to be living in the new town.
Because they made mention Dubois has to isolate for 14 days.
Yeah, going from the U.S. to Canada.
So he already lived there and then got traded to there?
Roslovich was a member of the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
He was disgruntled, didn't want to play there anymore. He's from the Columbus area. So he was still living in Columbus, didn't report to Winnipeg this year.
Okay.
And then ironically got traded to Columbus.
Okay. So yeah.
So he didn't have to quarantine because he was already living in the city he got traded to.
Columbus is a nice area.
So yeah. It is. It's one of the small, I don't know, shit upon hockey markets, though. It's like one of those where free agents don't want to go to, and I don't know.
I can tell you from experience that town is, over the last few years, has definitely blossomed into something bigger than people give it credit for.
But I think that whole town gets overshadowed by Ohio State.
It does.
Right? It's
the Ohio State.
I don't want to hear that.
And for the record, Ohio State's in a shitty part of town. It is.
But that's right. That's what Columbus is. When you say Columbus, first thing you think of is Ohio State.
Yeah. I mean, you got literally have stores, more than one in the same mall, that's dedicated to just Ohio State.
Yeah.
Gear, apparel.
And the interesting part, which Russ said, elite goal scorer for Laine. So he does not, I don't know if I would call him lazy on defense, but he's not active defensively.
He puts in less effort in the defensive zone than offensive.
And obviously, we already mentioned with Tortorella being old school.
That doesn't mix well.
People are wondering how that's going to work out, or does Columbus say, "All right, we don't want Laine. Can we flip him for something else?"
Or maybe he's happy to be away from those guys that were allegedly bullying him, and it changes his whole attitude. And
Grown ass man.
Line was 2 in the was that the Matthews draft?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Matthews, Line, Dubois, 1, 2, 3. So, yeah, I think those are the two interesting highlights. You got, can Line survive under Tortorella? If he can, he may become one of the best goal scorers in the NHL.
Right.
And number 2, Winnipeg, Scheifele, Dubois, 1-2 down the middle, now has maybe one of, if not the best, center duos in the NHL.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And Columbus is actually winning their division right now with only 2 wins. They got three overtime losses, but
Columbus is not a bad team. So.
No. Yeah, they lost to Tampa in the Eastern semis.
Yeah.
Eastern semis last year, so.
I do have one more thing for you guys.
Okay.
Nobody got voted into the Hall of Fame today.
Oh, I did.
I saw that
actually
too.
wrote that down because I had another
Schilling came 16 votes shy, I think.
He was shy.
68%, somewhere in there. 65.
70 even.
Oh, 70.
70 even.
So there's a vote threshold that they have to meet.
75.
So Schilling actually has requested that they take him off the ballot next year, and then he goes to the Veterans Committee to be voted upon after, I think, the following year or whenever they can.
Yeah, after if you don't get voted in for 10 years, you can go to the Veteran Committee or whatever that is, and
I mean,
get voted in that way.
You can have whatever reason you want for the, for whatever, not voting. I think a lot of it, I'm not going to get into details. I didn't look up a ton of them, but I know the basis of it. A lot of people don't like Schilling because they, his politics or whatever. Because after baseball, he got into this huge, that's what, I don't really care about that. What I do care about is 14 ballots came back empty this year. Didn't vote at all. And I think we've talked about this in other podcasts in years past about the voting and stuff. Like the year Jeter was up. Everyone thought Jeter was going to be the first-time 100%er, and then somebody from Boston, a writer, who said, I'm not going to vote for him. Almost out of spite, right?
Right.
And I think
rumor is that Jeter disrespected him, so he said, I'm not voting for him.
Yeah.
So
here's the problem. That's his opinion. Did he really not to Jeter, just anybody, for all these writers? That's what I got thinking about today. Does it become personal because you didn't have the interaction you wanted with that player, right?
Right. I can't stand LeBron James, but if I had a vote, the guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Thank you. So I think the issue is do we need to take a look at who's voting for people in the Hall of Fame? The fact that 14 ballots came back empty, I just feel like and I'm using just Jeter as an example because it's very recent to all of us because that was a story, right? Mm-hmm. The guy said that, and like you said, you can hate him or not, the realistic is, would you vote for that person for the Hall of Fame?
Yep. And
I think sending back 14, people who didn't vote for him, I think it's horseshit. Yeah. I heard Hank Aaron died this week. Rest in peace. Mm-hmm. Hank Aaron only got 85% of the votes, they said, when he went in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. 85%. That means people didn't vote for him. And to me, that's just horseshit.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that we need to look at who are these people? What constitutes you getting a vote for one of the most prestigious things that these guys, not only a career, but a lifetime look forward to or work towards as a kid, as a high schooler, college player, and then in Major League Baseball. Then we got some guy who probably got picked in dodgeball last his entire life, writing news articles, and he says, well, I get a vote, so I'm decide whether or not you go in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. And to my point, that guy might not have had the experience that he wanted or expected from a player. Yep. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to vote for him now. That's horseshit.
So this process will be much more elaborate. Why not have all living Hall of Fame players vote?
Yeah.
To me, that should be the vote. These guys are trying to get into their club, basically. Those guys know the criteria. If they're still living, there's a chance they played against some of these players. Who's going to know better than that?
That's what Schilling's argument is right now. And I'm not sticking up for Schilling. He is the example tonight because that's what happened today. He wants to be off the ballot next year. I think that's his way of, telling the writers, you can go fuck yourself.
Right.
Whether you think he's there or not, this will be his 10th year. And his comment was, I want off, and I want the people who know baseball to be voting on me.
Although, I still have disagreement about the veteran committee too, because of a former Brave, Dale Murphy, who's a 3-time MVP, and still is not in the Hall of Fame, which is crazy he won the MVP three times in 4 years, and a lot of people say he may be one of the best like hitters, like top 20, 25 in MLB ever, and not in the Hall of Fame.
Andrew Jones didn't get in today.
Andrew, I looked at it, was only like 30% too.
Andrew Jones got 19.4%.
19.
That's just a matter of time, though, right? For him.
Not always.
Jeff Kent didn't get in today.
Jeff Kent's almost done, I believe.
That was his 8th. Manny Ramirez didn't get in today.
Right.
Here's the other one that I was a little shocked by. Gary Sheffield didn't get in today.
Really?
Didn't he have steroid issues though?
Yes.
So
See,
that's why.
and I understand like people want to lean back on that, right? Okay, so Sheffield didn't get in, but you still voted for Clemens and Bonds, who got 61 and 60% of the vote.
Clemens and Bonds, they kept increasing in vote every year. In the past, like 3 years, has been like the same level. So they've kind of like hit that level, like they're not getting voted in.
I believe the steroids are the reason those guys turn in blank ballots. I believe that's the only reason those guys do that.
See, I think we've talked about the whole steroid thing before about, you could take, like Colton was on that episode, wasn't he? We talked about steroids and Bonds. And I just feel like it's hard to like, how do you keep a guy like Bonds out, right? I'm just, for sake of argument, you keep a guy like Bonds out because he's on steroids, but it's been proven like pitchers have come out and said, yeah, I did steroids. Like how many other guys do we know of didn't that we don't know?
Yeah.
Because we got guys now where it's, to me, if you get caught now, you're just an idiot. Mm-hmm. Because it's so, they track it so well and they do their due diligence. They didn't then, right? They didn't do that then. And I think the frustrating part is, I think you have, at some point, you just have to look at that era and be like, holy shit, all those guys were juicing.
Yes. Yeah. But Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. The guy's, you can make an argument he's the best hitter ever. I think if kind of split this a little bit. Your point about the guys turning in blank ballots, that's got to be addressed somehow.
Yeah.
Because if those guys continue to turn in blank ballots for the next decade, nobody's going to get into the Hall of Fame.
Right. Yeah.
I'm guessing based on whatever the total.
Yeah.
I don't know how many total voters there are.
Well, I just looked because obviously Rivera was the first one to have 100%. He was like 367 votes.
Okay.
367 people is a lot.
Yeah, so I guess you could get in theory with those guys, but still.
Right, yeah.
It's a slap in the face to the whole process.
Turning a blank ballot is trying to make a name for yourself. A statement that
instead of doing that, just say, "Hey, I'm sending my ballot back and take my vote out." But they won't do that because they won't.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
If you're doing it because of steroids, you're not right. You're not going to ever turn one in that's got something on it.
Yeah. So yeah, I would. So, I agree with that. If you turn a blank ballot, just don't count it. Then that's the same as not. You didn't vote.
Right.
You did not vote for a specific player.
That would
you
alter
just
the percentages.
You just didn't vote.
Right.
With that said, I do think over the last 10, 20 years, Hall of Fame status in all the sports, people kind of throw that around a little too easily.
It's been brought up in the NFL recently.
Those guys you just mentioned, Andrew Jones, Jeff Kent, Sheffield, and even Schilling, I throw him into this category. During their time, they were good all-star players, but if you truly look at their numbers, I don't know that I believe those are Hall of Fame players.
I looked at some of them. I remember I took a screenshot, so I can't like Sheffield batted 292 over his career at 257 stolen bases or some shit like that.
I just out of curiosity,
500 home runs.
I looked up Andrew Jones because he was an elite defender.
That's all. So that was a point I was going to go ahead and then I'll.
I guess he has more home runs than I thought, but he's a career 254 hitter.
Right.
Is that Hall of Fame worthy? In my opinion, no.
And there's a lot of guys on here for the first time that I'm like, even the guys that are on here the first time, I'm like, eh.
And Schilling, the thing that skews Schilling is he has 3 World Series titles.
Right.
But he's
like Tim Hudson's on the ballot.
216.
Everybody goes on the ballot though. So.
But he's in the top 25 that they have listed here.
He ended up, I don't know, 270 wins, somewhere in there, probably.
But it felt like he had a window, then he just kind of fell off the last few years, didn't he?
Yeah, but he also played for like 20 years. So did you take that into account? Obviously you fall off the last couple of years, but you're also older. I don't know.
Andy Pettit's on this list.
Yeah, but he's never going to get in, right?
He was because if it's
because of steroids.
Steroids. And Andy Pettit was the one guy that I remember during all that who came out and said, and that's why I got swept under the rug, I think, with him, was he took the approach that probably all these guys should have. He came out and he said, I had a knee injury, and I needed help for a couple of weeks to basically, or however long it was, to heal. And
those are good excuses, too. You never know, right?
Yeah, but if that's what steroids do to you, they help you heal faster.
Well, right, but...
Right. And but the fact that you come out and like openly admit it, like you tested positive, you're on this document that says you took steroids. Like, I did during that time when I had that knee injury. I had come off surgery and was trying to rehab.
Like with Schilling, when I look at him, he had the 3 World Series. I believe he had 1 in Arizona and 2 in Boston.
Yeah.
And the one in Arizona, you could argue he wasn't the best pitcher on his team with Randy Johnson.
Randy Johnson, yeah.
216 career wins and a career ERA of 3.46.
Yeah.
If I tell you 3.46, that's
not Hall of Fame.
Not even close to Hall of Fame level.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and because he's got and I'm trying to remember who was on those teams. Right, Beckett was the ace in Boston, so he probably wasn't the best pitcher in Boston.
Right.
So here we're doing right now what they're not doing. They vote in the Hall of Fame. We're sitting here talking numbers.
Yeah, we're thinking logically about whether
exactly, and this is almost like the Heisman bullshit, right?
At least
all of a sudden,
but at least the current the former Heisman winners are the ones voting that.
Right. What I'm saying though is like they went back and stripped the committee, like Reggie Bush that year. Like, well, you got money. And then what I'm saying is we're sitting here talking right now like whether or not someone should be in a Hall of Fame based on numbers, because isn't that what the Hall of Fame is? Mm-hmm. I didn't know there was an ethics category.
Well, then if you get money, you're a lot better.
Yeah, it's that. But you see what I'm saying though? Like we're talking numbers. Like, are these numbers good enough to be in the Hall of Fame?
I'm with you.
And then all of a sudden it comes time to the vote, and they're like, well, that guy wouldn't walk my dog that one time, and he wouldn't stop for an autograph, and
So to the Andrew Jones point, obviously a big Braves fan. I love Andrew Jones. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but at the same time, I don't know who. Obviously, I don't know every Hall of Famer, but what Hall of Famers are in there that have very similar numbers, right? Mm-hmm. Are there guys in there that were very good defensively, like because you could probably argue Andrew Jones is probably top 3 to 5 defensively center field of all time. Obviously, you got to put Griffey in there. You probably put Mays in there. I mean, there's guys you put
Jim
in there.
Edmonds.
Yeah, I mean, he's up there near the top probably. I would say top 10.
Yeah.
So obviously very good defense. Definitely Hall of Fame defender.
Yep. So when you look at, the numbers argument, because he's got 400 something home runs.
Right.
There's guys that have less that are in the Hall of Fame. And if you look at guys that played in, like, let's say the 60s, that maybe you look at this player and think, goodness, his numbers are comparable to Andrew Jones, and this guy's in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
But in my opinion, you also have to take into consideration that guy's numbers against his generation.
Against the field, yeah.
Yeah. That's why, like the Babe Ruth argument, there's players that have better career numbers than Babe Ruth, right? But when you compare Babe Ruth to the players of his generation, absolutely nobody was even close to him.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And I think the year he hit 60 or whatever it was, 61, 60, he had more home runs than like half the teams in the league had combined.
Right.
And that's so that 60 home run has been broken since then. But we've had a handful of guys hit 50 we've had a couple dozen guys hit over 50.
Yeah.
So, taking pictures out of this, just batting averages, obviously you can tell who the pitchers were. There's 2 guys on this list from today that have a batting average over 300 out of the 25. It's Todd Helton and Manny Ramirez. Career batting average is over 300.
Manny is of the guys we've mentioned, Manny's the closest to me, because when he was playing, there were people that were arguing that he was the best right-handed hitter to ever play.
Right.
And when you make comments like that, that to me is when you start to get into, okay, is this guy a Hall of Fame caliber player?
555 home runs. The only people on that list with more are Bonds and Sosa.
Right. So I know baseball stats tend to skew towards the offense, which is the argument you're making with Jones. But if you're a career 300 hitter and you're in the 500 home run club, those are two giant check marks towards the Hall of Fame. Andrew Jones hitting 250 is a big check mark against him.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. I mean, I'm looking at some of this and I'm like, this is just.
Yeah. So would I have voted for a big handful of these guys on this year's list to get into the Hall of Fame? I don't know that I would have, but the system has its flaws that need to be addressed.
And this was the first time. 1960 was the other time that nobody got in.
I think the system. The point I'm trying to make is the system, like you said, is flawed.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with
Probably
that.
some 70-year-old dude sitting behind his computer desk with stacks and stacks of papers that he wrote old articles on that newspapers don't exist anymore.
Yeah,
Wants to make a name for himself, and he's like, "Oh, that young pup, he think he took steroids. I ain't voting for any of those guys."
Real quick before going stars, because the guy we talked about, I don't know, a couple months ago, Real Muto, hasn't officially signed yet, but 5 years, average of $23 million.
Yep. Highest annual average ever for a catcher.
Yeah,
I forgot to ask you guys. I know how to say it. I think the Yankees got LeMahieu cheap.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't.
He's older though too, so I don't know.
I don't remember the number off the top of my head.
5 years, 90.
That's not crazy. That's high for a second baseman or first.
First baseman.
Whatever he's going to play.
I think it's kind of low for a guy coming off a batting crown. He's won.
Yeah, but he's won batting crowns before.
That's okay. That makes it even worse.
Yeah, but he's old. I don't. What he's got to be.
He's on a 6-year 90. Yeah, so you were close.
6 year.
Yeah, I mean it's a good deal.
It's
It's a good deal for them.
I thought he'd want more out of them. I really did.
I mean, maybe he tried, but he just wanted to stay in New York.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before. You're in New York,
We're gonna have a
huge market.
hell of a baseball preview before this season with all the moves the
We're gonna have to
Padres.
separate it by divisions. Jesus,
moves the Padres have made, and the Yankees pitching staff now.
the fucking Blue Jays.
Oh yeah, I read today that, and I'm okay with it. Tanaka, keep him moving.
Really?
Well,
Yeah,
they just
fuck
got
yeah.
What are you surprised for?
they just got Jameson Taillon for
Yeah.
the Pirates, and they signed somebody else.
Tanaka was one of the biggest waste of money.
Yeah,
I don't disagree. I just feel like the way he was touted, it didn't seem like he was
Never
going
lived up to
anywhere
it.
soon. I know.
the moves they've made this offseason make it understandable to not have him around.
Yeah.
It was so much money because it wasn't just like, hey, they signed Tanaka for this many
He was
years,
getting
this
like
money.
20, wasn't he?
But it was something like
Which is low for a
20 or
pitcher
north of that. But they also had to pay money to the team in Japan just to talk to him,
Yes.
and that wasn't a small fee.
Yeah,
That's crazy, isn't
It
it?
was ridiculous.
who else did they grab? Oh,
Tanaka's on a 7-year, $155 million contract.
It's over, I think.
they grabbed.
Oh, you're right.
Was
Yep,
it Kluber?
that will be the end of
They
it.
did get Kluber.
Yeah.
Tanaka's
So,
done.
they've got Cole, Kluber, and if he can stay healthy, Jameson Taillon stuff is arguably as good as Garrett Cole's.
Right, and they still got what's his name coming back?
So
He's hurt all last year.
yeah. Younger
Can't do-
dude.
Severino.
Severino, yeah. So,
He
yeah,
was
I
like
think
hit or miss, but
I heard
still.
Tanaka's already talking to a team in Japan, his former team, going back.
Just go to the Blue Jays. They're stacking.
They said nobody wants him.
Do you think Japan can come anywhere near the numbers? I don't
Yeah,
know.
they
Obviously, I
probably
don't
more.
follow it.
Probably more.
I don't know.
Probably even more.
Really?
Yeah.
Baseball's pretty big in Japan.
That's the one where they
yeah.
give out the sword for the World Series, right? Or something to that extent. Have you seen that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you're talking Korean baseball, right? Or basket. What was that Korean sport you were talking
Korean
about?
basketball, man.
Yeah, so not.
Korean basketball, not baseball.
I thought you
We didn't
followed
talk
all
baseball.
Asian sports or something to that extent.
Yeah, baseball in Japan is enormous.
North Korea basketball league,
That's right.
not just Korean.
Point
North
guard
Korea.
Kim Jong Un.
Yeah, for every team.
We're almost 2
I heard he scored
hours
100
here.
points in a game. Actually,
We're dragging on here. We're getting to replay the Sabres Rangers game.
All right, let's go stars. I will go first. Actually, I'm just going to say it. I've already mentioned my first and second star. It was Poirier and Chandler. So
Six.
Poirier is my first star. So
my third star is Mac McClung last night.
I'm with you there.
30
Third
points. 30 points for Mac McClung. Playing at Texas Tech. Went up and played at West Virginia. They lose the game on a buzzer, kind of a buzzer beater. There's 8 seconds left, but his parents made the drive 5 hours to watch him play.
Gate City, Virginia.
Yeah. Kid's a stud, man. He broke Allen Iverson's state scoring record in high school.
bad.
Was he in like a Class D school or something where it wasn't really?
No, it was like not. It was like mid-size. It wasn't like.
City's
You know where I'm
big,
going
but
with that, right?
well-
Like if you went to Addison, obviously he'd have 3,000 points before he graduated.
That was a shot at both of you, I guess.
I didn't play basketball. I'm not a pumpkin pusher.
No, just
shot
going to
at me.
Addison.
I mean, Gate City's not a big town, but they had some serious talent there. I think there's a couple more kids than went to D1 schools on that
Yeah.
team. And there was still a kid, I think, on that team that was still on the team after those guys graduated. Yeah, kid was a stud.
My third star, I like it when guys stick it to their old teams. So Tyler Toffoli, Vancouver picked him up at the trade deadline last year and then didn't re-sign him. He re-signed in Montreal. Montreal and Vancouver played a 3-game series last week. Tyler Toffoli had 3 goals, 2 assists for 7 points in the 3 games, including a hat trick. So bad move for Vancouver. So Tyler Toffoli.
My third star was Mac McClung. Do you got your second? Who was your second? He's already done with stars, so it's just you and I.
Okay. My second star, the LPGA had the Diamond Resorts Tournament of Champions this past weekend. That's the equivalent of like the PGA Tour tournament when they have all the champions from the last 2 seasons, actually. So Jessica Korda got a win in the playoff, shot 24 under par in that tournament. So she's my second star.
My second star is Luka Doncic. Last night went 35, 11, and 16. But over the season, he's averaging 27.3 points, 9.8 rebounds, and 9.9 assists.
Wow.
Close to the triple-double average.
He's got 2 triple-doubles, almost 3 in the last 5 games.
I
bad.
only had 1 star this week, and Russ picked it up. But at the same time, I had her for a different reason. Obviously, she won and shot an impressive number, but she shot 60. And last week, Kevin Na was one of my stars for shooting 61. So it's impossible for me to not put her there.
Yep.
And then for her to shoot it bogey free. And did you see the scorecard?
30-28, wasn't it?
Yeah, she went deep on the
Or
backside.
no, 32-28.
Yeah, because she went 9 under on the back, correct?
Yeah.
Impressive stuff.
You say bogey free, but it's got to be hard to shoot a 60 while
With a
carding
bogey.
bogeys.
Right? And,
Didn't Furyk shoot 59 with a bogey or something?
I don't
last
remember
night?
that. Mickelson went bogey free this week in 18 pars. Or last week, I should say.
Sounds riveting.
Before you, I assume you got a dud over there.
I do.
My first star is the Bills. It wasn't a star of the week. It was more the adventurous roller coaster we were on for the last 3-4 months. I'm ready for next year already.
I don't know.
Same. We might have a golf date soon. Or I say soon. Maybe right before the season, depending on when Mario comes back to New York. You may want to play golf. We had that conversation the other night.
Interesting. My dud of the week, I'm sure you guys probably saw this story since you follow UFC. Ottoman Azatar is my dud of the week. Did you know this already?
Great. No, tell the story. It's a great dud.
Okay. So this, I'm assuming you say Azatar. We'll stick with it. He and his camp were in their hotel, and they were in the middle of the hotel, not on a high level or not in a low level. Someone in the group apparently has tiny wrists because they were able to slip the wristband off, smuggle it to the front of the hotel, and give it to a random person that they haven't named him. Obviously, I'm sure they do know who he is. He went to a top floor, found his way in a room, climbed down balconies to give a bag of something, or to get a bag of something. Actually, this other guy climbed to him. My question is, what's in the bag? Because
They don't know.
They asked Dana White, and he says, I don't know. I don't buy it for a second.
Yeah, but
You don't catch someone and not peek in the bag.
But at the time they asked Dana, it only was like an hour or 2 old.
Okay.
And I have a feeling
They
that
asked him at the presser
if it
after the
was
fights.
potentially like a bomb or something, like obviously he's not going in there.
Why would it be a bomb?
Nobody went there. Who said that?
They asked,
no, but
I just don't
they asked
understand.
Dana after the fights at the press
Oh,
conference.
really?
Yeah, he said, I don't know what's in the bag. He kind of was just kind of like, so the guy got cut from the UFC.
I just want to
I'm a little concerned you went to bomb with this.
Hey, you don't know.
I was thinking some sort of
Hard drug or something?
A steroid doesn't help you at that point.
that was
but
my thought,
something
yeah.
along those
Yeah.
lines. Like the guy had an injury and needed something illegal
And
to get him through the fight.
and it was some guy outside the bubble.
The bubble, yeah.
Yeah, so they actually a few of them left the bubble. That's what happened. So
Yeah, they asked Dana. They asked him what was in the bag. He's like, I don't know.
I'm
This was
excited
after
to
the
find
fight.
out, though.
I don't know if we ever will.
you'll never find out.
And they
especially
asked
not in
him-
Abu Dhabi.
I asked him if he pressed charges, and he said no. The kid lost his job and contract to UFC. He goes, He goes, he's not a bad kid. He made a dumb decision.
Yep.
And they asked about the guy who got into the bubble and stuff, and Dana said, I don't know.
Yeah, wait.
I
Should
doubt
he
he
should be
fared as
allowed
well.
back though? You said they make them decisions
What do you mean?
earlier. You said
Oh, because he's young.
Yeah.
Should he be? Oof.
No.
No.
This is a no.
That's a
for me.
different.
They said that
That's another level of stupidity.
Dubai government had a guy's name that got into the bubble.
they have big right. I think there's huge like drug. I mean, it's hard to like get drugs in there and out of there. So apparently, like when people get them in, it's like a big deal.
McAfee said, "Do I sweat and getting drugs into Canada?" And he's like, "Can't imagine I'm getting into Abu Dhabi." All right, gentlemen. Anything else?
Go
Yeah.
Sabres.
All right,
0-0,
boys.
5 minutes.
Bills
in.
are gone. It's officially hockey season.
I'm excited to eat some of these leftovers from Mooney's Sports Bar and Grill.
No one said
I
you were
agree.
getting them.
Oh yeah, I'm digging in those things too.
So the fight happens now, then, Adam?
Boxing match this summer.
Next week, Super Bowl preview. So see you guys next week.